Chapter 71, The Journey and the Sacred Sword. In the vast underground world, due to the presence of dangerous magic beasts and thieves, it is inconvenient to travel between cities. Different from the relatively chaotic underground world, the somewhat rich merchant on the surface dares to form a merchant party just by hiring a few mercenaries. In comparison, in the underground world, legends don't match up to dogs and liches are everywhere. During the journey, one can be robbed by a red dragon and legend experts or turned into food by super magic beasts. The smaller merchant parties don't really dare to go outdoors. Due to such a situation, going by the basic rule where returns are proportionate to risk, as long as a merchant party safely arrives at their destination, their profits from selling specialties are bound to be incredibly high. Listing a simple example, Sulphur Mountain City's specialty is to alloy ingots of adamantine and sulfur. Its sale price for a single unit of goods is 2,000 gold coins. If it's shipped to Chrome City, its price doubles to 4,000. If it's shipped to the Vance, which requires 2 months to journey to, the price would inflate by at least 15 times higher. On the other hand, if it's shipped to the surface, given the limited number of products found in the market there, it becomes a type of goods where the demand far outstrips the supply. You're lucky if you're even able to purchase it with 100,000 gold coins. Of course, there is a limit to the production of specialties. Given its rarity, the price tends to inflate to a ridiculous point. However, other daily products, due to it being consumed at a rapid rate, their supply in the market is always insufficient, so the profits for these goods are also not to be underestimated. Due to such circumstances, thanks to Shu and Cockagill's selfless contribution, the spatial distortion that connects straight to Vance has determined Sulphur Mountain City's prosperity. A journey that requires 2 months has been reduced to just a short week. The ones who have benefited from this aren't just the two cities. As the merchants and customers frequent to and fro from these cities, the surrounding underground cities are also prospering from the spatial distortion. The deepening of economic ties brings about the solidifying of political relationships. Those merchants who are sensitive to profits have already started looking upon this as the road of gold, while those politically sensitive underground city lords have started sending their sons and daughters to both lands to pull closer their relationship between the two cities. In the end, a faraway relative cannot beat a close neighbor. When their profits are locked together and if the leaders of both sides were to inconceivably offer mutual trust to one another, Sulphur Mountain City and the Vance's new owners, the Centaur tribe, amiable relationship will further deepen. Furthermore, given that Sulphur Mountain City is the home of the Dragon Empress, 3 of the 5 underground autarchs have started working together. Thus, in the eyes of the wiser ones, a gigantic monster is currently surfacing slowly from the water. Economic mergers, political mergers, mergers due to personal ties and mergers of experts started to occur between the two. But more importantly, under the order of the new laws, the different tribes and races started to try to forge a common understanding with the others. This represents a true merger and not just some alliance contract where both parties simply had their own goals in mind. There isn't another place better than the cruel underground world that can make people understand the power of working together. There also isn't another place where, due to the lack of resources and the bloody competitions that result from it, coexisting harmoniously is so difficult. It is a time that inspires fear, when words like furthering individual goals and betrayal have become another name for temporary alliances, all the more so with the emergence of gigantic beasts beginning to merge together in all aspects. Perhaps, the entire structure of the underground world is going to change. Perhaps, give it a decade or so, a new underground emperor or queen will be enthroned. Perhaps, the current underground alliance will be replaced by the giant beasts formed by multiple factions. Perhaps, the chaotic underground world will find itself in an age of peace. But these are all just speculations of the future. At this moment, on the road of gold, a normal-seeming merchant team is gradually trudging forward. The reason why it seems normal is because there are only around 20 carriages, the goods aren't of top quality and the escorts hired for the trip are just normal dark elves and beastmen mercenaries. However, if one has to find something abnormal about it, it is that despite the journey not being that far, we had surprisingly not met any single trouble along the way. The thieves and magic beasts that appears frequently had disappeared without a trace. All of the mercenaries were surprised by such a sight. I am you also part of the party. The 3 months of filling in the blanks of my knowledge have successfully come to an end. I have sorted out all the entirety of my previously scattered knowledge, and thus, it was time for me to leave the underground world. At this moment, with the help of a magic tool, my physique was no longer one of that of a short young kid. Time distortion ring, Myth class unique treasure. The user's physical body will be affixed at his 20-year-old state, allowing him to maximize combat potential. However, it is unable to change the attributes of the physical body. Creator, market material, the shattered fragments of the Saint Stones and Mithril system. Notice, this means that your little fellow is still in a state where it can be seen but can't be used. This time, I am not the one scamming you. Margaret definitely did it on purpose. Are you sure that she is unable to create a ring that can change your physical body perfectly? Ignoring this system, notice that is obviously trying to incite something. Looking at the changes my physical body underwent, I am still just satisfied with this ring. In order to avoid stress created on my body by the ring, I have to remove the ring for a few hours every day. I could do this just fine by removing it before going to sleep. At this moment, I am greatly different from the previous me. The dull golden plate armor I am wearing might be a little old and without any high tier enchantments, and overall couldn't be considered a top tier piece of goods, but the Roland sacred sword on my waist had silver light shimmering around it. Without any ornaments on it, the sword itself looked like an artifact of history and practically screams that it's not an ordinary sword. However, when the people beside me look at the other sword behind my back, their eyes seem to be mocking me. I am no sword saint or adventurer, neither am I able to wield 2 swords simultaneously. There is totally no meaning to me carrying 2 swords at once. The sword on my waist and the sword I am carrying on my back is just another piece of solid evidence that I had, once again, been scammed by the system. TL, sword saint, greater than does not mean the person is of saint rank. It just refers to people who have broken through a certain realm in their mastery of swordsmanship. Roland Sacred Sword, Semi-God Equipment, evolved from Orange Legend equipment to Silver Semi-God equipment. Attack power, 22 to 44 plus 11 additional damage due to it being a plus 11 Semi-God equipment. Even if the sword deals damage of the lower limit, it will deal additional 11 unavoidable Silver Inferno magic damage. Indestructible, even against God equipment, this sacred sword will not break. Out of the 2 times it has broken, one of it is because of a Yor, while the other time is because it's already in an incomplete, weak state, which allowed the dragon saber to destroy it through its unique ability. The Royal Seal of the Mist, Roland's sacred sword is a symbol of the power of the Mist royalty. Only with the acknowledgement of the king can one use this sacred sword. Along with the rise of the Mist Kingdom once again, it is trying its best to evolve to become even stronger. At the same time, this proud sacred sword can only be used by the king of the Mist Kingdom and his trusted knights. The prestige of the king, strength +2, agility +2, stamina +2, charm +2. In the country built by the Mist bloodline, the reputation would be equal to the respect the user earns. There are yellow words carved on the body of the sword. The Roland Sacred Sword is the sword used by the Holy Knight Prince Roland in the legends. Only his descendants and inheritors of his will can be acknowledged by this sacred sword. Prerequisite to equip, Mist Bloodline. In order to fix this sword, I threw my remaining 20,000 fate points into, instead of exchanging it to level up. I walked carefully to Sulphur Mountain City with a throbbing heart, but in the end. Oi, system, are you sure it can be repaired? It won't end up with you saying that my points are insufficient halfway through, will it? Definitely not. Through my calculations, you have sufficient points. In fact, there will still be a few thousand points left for you to power up. The repaired sacred sword won't end up as trash, will it? I promise you that it will be powerful. It will evolve from Orange Legend. In order to prevent people from getting confused from the legend rank of people, the weapon a tier above that of Purple Myth will be called Orange Legend. To a semi-god equipment, there will definitely be a change in quality itself. You can't be that kind, though. Will there be level restrictions, like I have to be LV 120 to use it for something? If so, let's just forget it. The only restriction is one's bloodline. If you don't believe in the omnipotent system that much, you can take a look at it for yourself. Alright, It threw the blueprints at me and I studied it twice. Staring at the silver words that is representative for semi-god equipment and its fearsome attack power, as well as unique abilities, I started laughing maniacally. This time before confirming my decision to fix it, to make certain that I won't be scammed once again, I studied the prerequisites for usage multiple times. I wanted to ensure that the only requirement for usage is to be the King of Mist Kingdom. I was scammed. The only restriction is indeed bloodline. Only Roland's descendants can use it? Doesn't that mean Roland himself is unable to use it? Of course not. Although you won't admit it to yourself, the Mist Country has been destroyed. There is a shift in the power of royalty at the moment of your first death. Now, it is named the East Mist Communal Country, a new country created by the descendants of the legendary Roland. Its size and population isn't even a quarter of what it used to be, but it is indeed the successor of the Mist Country. It doesn't matter whether you look at it from their identity or bloodline, they are the true royalty of the Mist. Alright, although the system scammed me once again, it revealed a lot of important information. The East Mist Communal Country is really built by the Mist bloodline? Then, are they my descendants or Carwin's? Alright, as expected of that darned system. At an important time like this, it refuses to answer at all. However, the use of this sword is very obvious to me now. If only the kings and the knights of the Mist Country are able to use it, then I have to either just throw it to one of the supposed Roland descendants or have him knight me. Sigh, but it's still quite troublesome to deal with. If so, I'll have to come into contact with the new royals earlier than planned. What kind of persona should I use? Their great-grandfather? I am the lost son that your great-grandfather left behind? Or perhaps, I could just try to hide my identity while trying to get myself a position among the knights. With the identity of a human noble, it will be much more convenient for me to move around on the surface as well. But, just as I was considering my options, someone cut off my train of thought. Holy Knight Roland, come down to help. TL, his full name is Roland Mist, Ziluolen.lan, the name he usually uses is Rolo, Ziluo, and the name he is using now is the first character of his name and his surname, which sounds exactly the same as his original name Roland, Romist, but it sounds awful. X Yes, I'm still playing the role of a holy knight and still using the same name. The reason why I'm using the name Roland, and not the fake name Rolo that I'm used to, is because of the person in front of me. The sacred sword Silver Avenger shines with a blinding golden holy light. The owner of the sword is equipped with a full body plate mail made of some alloy that is so thick that it could probably crush an elephant to death, but somehow, the person still manages to move around freely as though equipped with light leather armor. After resigning as the captain of the town security, the Moon Knight still looks as valiant as ever. But there is a certain part of her that has changed. Her skin has turned significantly whiter. Of course, this isn't because of some plastic surgery of this foreign world, but due to the path of the moon savior that Diana chose. The moon goddess Patricia is the guardian of the moon and the lost. Under her protection, if dark elves choose to abandon the evil faith of Lorsai, they can change their faith through the moonlight ritual. The crux of the moonlight ritual is equal to using the moon needle to restitch one's skin. It is both painful and time-wasting. However, within half a year's time after the ritual is conducted, the black skin tone of the dark elves will gradually grow lighter, and they gain the right to bathe in the sunlight and moonlight. After the ritual, although their skin wouldn't be white as jade like those of the surface elves, but it would still be significantly whiter than those of the dark elves. Their own brownish-black skin still remains extremely striking. The gray elves under the moonlight, this is the name given to previous dark elves who decided to walk on the path of justice. The sacred moon insignia on their arms is the mark of their identity. However, Diana slightly differs on that account. There is indeed the sacred moon insignia of Patricia carved on her left arm, but at the same time, etched on her right arm is the insignia of scale that represents Swoomians. That is the golden scale. The left side of the scale represents judgment and the gavel that punishes sinners, while the right side of the scale represents reward and the gold coins that protect the kind-hearted. At the back of the scale, a vague figure of a blindfolded man could be seen, that is the incarnation of Justice of Woomians himself. Under the tide where holy knights rush to convert into Justice Knights, only Diana retains her identity as a holy knight. This isn't because she has other ideas planned but rather, it is because she has forged her soul imprint as a legend class Holy Knight. Even if our advertisement slogan states that the Holy Light could be converted into the power of law without any loss in power, in the end, it's just an advertisement slogan, so there is a certain level of exaggeration in it. If she converts into a Justice Knight from a Holy Knight, when all of her power is converted, she would be unable to use her original soul imprint, causing her to fall from the realm of legends. If she were to try to break through once again, it would require a certain amount of luck. It is unknown how long the process would actually take. A legend with limitless potential isn't easy to come by, so a loss like that is really a great pity. Back then, when I was still assuming the identity of Wumians, I tried to convince her to retain her identity as a Holy Knight. Considering the need for top-tier experts in the town security, she heeded my advice. When she decided to leave Sulphur Mountain City for some reason and search for her own route on the surface, I, who had intended to use her as a bodyguard and meat shield on the way, naturally leapt out with the identity of the Holy Knight Roland. I brought along the recommendation letter from the city lord, requesting for companionship as a rookie Holy Knight. Yes, I am still assuming the identity of a Holy Knight this time. After all, the Order Knight is able to use a large portion of the powers of the Holy Knight. Summoning the Holy Light is one of my forte, and to add on, Holy Knights have quite a good reputation in many countries and are quite popular. This allows me to traverse around more conveniently on the surface, so there is no one better to disguise as than Holy Knights. Nice to meet you, respected Grey Elf Madam. May Patricia's radiance light your path. I am Holy Knight Roland from the Surface Human Kingdom Kaelin. Due to certain circumstances, I was separated from my other companions and I happened to overhear that you are heading to the surface, so I would like to accompany you on the journey. You see, my individual strength still doesn't permit me to move around freely in this dangerous underground world. If only I am able to use my family heirloom, this sacred sword. Humble, polite, self-aware, unconfident of his own strength and ashamed of the fact that he is unable to use the sacred sword passed down in his family, this is the perfect image of a rookie Holy Knight. Roland missed strength, 20 agility, 19 stamina, 20 intelligence, 29 will, 19 charm, 19 race talent, war angel form, sinful devil god form, sword of order, Titan body LV21 Order Knight LV21 Chaos Witch King. Even after I dumped the 3000 points I had remaining from repairing the sacred sword into my growth, the 3 times experience point penalty only allowed me to raise my strength into a LV21, barely reaching bronze rank. However, this still allowed me to understand how scary this diamond physical body is. Just by growing to LV21, my physical body's strength and stamina increased by 1. This may seem quite insignificant since a normal Beastman Berserker is also able to do the same. However, stat growth doesn't work in a straight line. When the numbers hit 19, the limit of mortals, this tiny increase is already very scary. Initially, I thought that my basic stats were too high, such that it would be impossible for it to increase before I reach gold rank. The main stats of mortals are often jammed at 19. This is the boundary to enter the realm of legends, requiring one to train themselves to the brink of life and death in order to break through. But, my body managed to break through this boundary so easily, which could only mean that the legend rank doesn't count as anything for this body. It's just like the great angels and the ancient dragon tribe, who are able to break into the legend rank easily, as long as their age reaches a certain mark. Due to my strength reaching 20, I awakened my race talent, Sword of Order. At the same time, my stamina reaching 20 awakened another race talent, Titan Body. These 4 powerful race talents, coupled with my overpowered basic stats, gave me the confidence to solo any silver rank existence despite barely reaching bronze rank. The awakening of these kinds of race talents depends solely on luck. It is incomprehensible how it could be awakened so easily. However, very quickly, the moment I saw that my stats are all stuck at X9, I came to a realization. After all, 20 is the upper limit of mortals. They would become significantly stronger the moment they break through the bottleneck of their physical body. It is natural for their dormant race talents to awaken at this point. However, for all my stats to be at X9, could the system be helping me? Yes, You dumb fool. Even that red dragon is much smarter than you. Each age group has a specific role assigned to it. Only youths have the potential to grow. If I were to give you a matured physical body that is above 20 years old, it would be impossible for you to awaken any race talents. Immediately, I fell into confusion. Did the system who had been scamming me for so long change its nature to think it would actually help me? This is the final chance. If you fail again, there won't be a next time. Besides, you are so pathetic that I couldn't stand looking at you anymore, so I decided to help you this once. Try harder, the enemies this time aren't that easy to deal with. Then what about that troll and sacred sword? If I didn't do this to link it with the fate of the country, then do you think that that sort of royalty could possibly have evolved to a semi-god equipment or even to the level of god equipment? If the whole world gets destroyed, even you can't escape the fate of death. You might have lived long enough, but don't pull me down the mud along with you. Fine, to think the darn system would help me for once. If I fail this time as well, then I can only be damned. Even if I have the strength to solo silver ranks, the underground world is a place where legends are everywhere, so it is still quite dangerous for me. Hence, the need to look for a bodyguard to escort me to the surface. Listening to the suggestions of the system, I chose Diana as my companion. At that moment, I deeply understood that the system was still the same as always. Perhaps, it could be trustworthy at crucial periods, but it wouldn't pass by an opportunity to scam. After I suggested the idea to travel as companions, Diana, who is also a holy knight and is curious about me as a surface dweller, immediately accepted me into her group. However, the moment I see my traveling mates, I immediately regretted it. Furious Dog, that is the nickname I came up for her. She, who has also completed the moonlight ritual, looks at me with suspicious eyes and keeps questioning whether I have a younger brother named Rolo. Seeing how a mysterious liquid keeps flowing from her mouth the moment she mentioned Rolo, I wouldn't tell her that I have a brother even if I really had one. Even more so, I made up my mind to never take my ring off in front of her. Alright, of them all, this is still the one that is the easiest to deal with. Gold rank judgmenter crows, or rather crows now, after converting into a true female, successfully evolved from the number one beautiful person of the judicial system into the number one beauty of Sulphur Mountain City. Her current goal is the elf's sacred spring on the surface that is said to be able to dispel any curse. TL, male, versus, female, homophone, but one had slightly more masculine words while the other one is more feminine. After I realized that the aura of plague is still working, personally, I do welcome the presence of this lightning rod. At least, there is someone en route that could bring jokes constantly to relieve boredom. However, from the murderous look that the other two flower guardians keeps shooting me with, I don't seem to be very welcome. As my strength is lacking at this moment, if I were to get closer to her without any consideration, it could probably turn from watching a joke into becoming a joke. That would be bad. Thus, I consciously bent my body and smiled, shaking my head at the same time to indicate that I don't feel anything towards beauties. But somehow, after realizing that I am not as annoying as the other flies, Crows came on her own accord to talk to me, filling the two flower guardians with resentment against me. Alright, these are still quite easy to deal with. The ones who are hard to deal with are the other few. The armor expert Master Blacksmith Hoyle, Great Dwarf, nicknamed Big Orange Head Shorty, has quite the temper. If I were to use the shortest sentence to describe how unique he is, he is one of the core members of the Gentleman Alliance and one of the targets on the top of the town security's blacklist. Okay, I don't think I have to elaborate any further, everyone should get it. Yung Ubar, another core member of the Gentleman Alliance. He is also the organizer for this merchant party. If I knew from the start that this merchant party is the safe brand, then I wouldn't have joined in, even if I were to be beaten to death. Even now, I am shivering as I sit in the carriage provided by the goblin. Both of them are the organizers of this merchant party, providing the goods and carriages. It seems that they are heading to the surface to attend some council of great masters, but from the look of how the few carriages are jointly dragging a heavy load of goods behind them, there is an 80% chance that it is a Roland. That name is still very awkward. They are actually using it now as an official name. Bei Feng Herald, this fellow. Alright, We don't have to introduce more about him. The moment I think about that inconceivable 10,000 points and how this fellow's noble title is the man who single-handedly created multiple races, I have an insuppressible urge to draw my sword. That day, a true God sent me a revelation. I, Bai Feng, a law-stricken, decided to step on a journey to find myself. Huat Hashat sent you a revelation. Stop talking nonsense. You're %yen just a pervert. Stop associating yourself with Wumians. When I heard what he said, even I couldn't suppress the urge to scold with vulgarities. Alright, Crows, who is a judgmenter, still fulfills her role responsibly. At the very least, she knows that she has to protect the honor of her own true God. After her comrades held Bai Feng in place, those small fists struck viciously onto his flesh. Even so, it didn't stop Bai Feng from confessing his deep feelings to the passing giant Kodomo lizards. Nice to meet you, comrade. It is because of God's revelation that I had this romantic journey which created the possibility for our meeting. I am Bai Feng and I am a male. You? Oh, you are a male as well? This is great. Alright, the moment he brought the giant lizard to head to the back of the carriage, the crowd could no longer suppress their urges and lunges towards him. That was quite a good beating, making one feel refreshed. This kind of incident has already happened 3 times along the way and yet, Bai Feng refuses to change his ways. I have even started to suspect whether he has awakened to a new kind of interest. Alright, back to the topic. After completing our daily mission of dealing with Bai Feng, Diana actually took the initiative to seek my assistance. Holy Knight Roland, we haven't met with any thieves or magic beasts along the way. There is obviously some kind of problem. There is a high possibility that the thieves might have banded together to ambush us. There is quite a narrow and long valley ahead. If there's going to be an ambush, it is very possible it would occur there, so act accordingly together with me later. I know that she is doing this out of good fault will. Among the entire merchant party, I seem to be the weakest and she's worried that I'll be plunged into danger. However, I would like to say that she is overthinking it. Ambush? In this kind of situation? I scan my surroundings and at a distance, I can clearly see a few black silhouettes swiftly hiding their presence. I could sense that within the dark clouds, the ominous wings of death move slowly and steadily. 3 kilometers ahead, the head of the merchant party looks back every few minutes. Not too far away, the deep rumbling of thunder could be heard, indicating that some battle is going on there. An agile figure seems to be hiding behind a stone pillar, while a teleporting blue figure follows behind the figure's back. Graya, as the newly appointed 3rd Senator of Zuyuo, there should be endless official matters for you to deal with. Is it okay for you to act so leisurely? Little Lionheart, to be looking back so frequently, doesn't your neck feel sore at all? Xuidi, stop hiding. That big body of yours can't be hidden by that small tree sapling. Adam and Margaret, even the both of you. Forget it, I won't bother anymore. Yes, before leaving, I had told them clearly that they'd need not bid me farewell. However, I really didn't expect that they would be so worried about something happening along the way that they all came, together, without agreeing on it, to escort me secretly. The result is a bunch of experts trying their best to imitate the techniques of thieves, secretly tracking the merchant party. What about the thieves and magic beasts along the road? They were all instant killed dozens of kilometers away. Forget it, they mean well, anyway. Not clarifying it, since it isn't easy to explain. Although I said that they were being excessive, I couldn't suppress the joy from the depths of my heart. The system of the power of law has been built and the true God of law, Wumians, has come into existence. The change in the Zuyuo Empire's royal faction and the change in powers of the entire underground world. Even if the future still remains bleak, but compared to the history which is doomed for destruction, many things have changed. This time, I am no longer alone. Somehow, looking at all these fools who are hiding and dodging about, I laughed. Just like English uses he and she to distinguish male and female, Chinese also have he and she. However, the author never indicates Crow's gender with he or she, which is doable in Chinese but hard to achieve in English. Just to clarify one part, again, due to Roland trying to hide his identity, by choosing a fake name that sounds exactly the same, I will use Roland whenever the fake name is used. Chapter 72, As a Knight, one must solo a giant dragon high. This is the system who is furiously brushing up its presence. There are 2 daily missions for you. To celebrate the system's upgrade, you will be provided with a great bargain. Both of the missions will be from the Justice faction. From now on, you must complete at least 1 daily mission every day, or I will to reduce you to tears by deducting your points. If you complete both of the daily missions, there will be an additional fate point for you. Daily mission: as a knight, one must solo a giant dragon. Kill an evil, adult dragon by yourself. Normally, there is no reason for me to reward you for a little dragon, but considering that you have only the strength of around 500 meows, there would be quite a bit of difficulty in challenging an evil dragon with a strength of 30,000 meows. Therefore, an additional 100 fate points will be awarded. However, please clearly look at the word solo. So, if you were to hide behind your helpers, 1,000 fate points will be deducted on the spot. Without a second thought, I ignore the ill-intentioned solo and evil dragon mission. Even if I am in dire need for fate points to strengthen myself, I don't plan on courting death to do it. However, the other daily mission leaves me feeling even more clueless. Daily mission: every epic hero starts out from helping little girls find their missing cats. Find a girl, no, look for a meow alien and return it back to its owner. 3 fate points will be awarded. If neither of the 2 missions is completed, 100 fate points will be deducted. Darn it. How do I look for a cat in this barren land? And it even has to be one that's lost. Isn't this obviously a plot to deduct my points? As expected, I was too naive to think that the darn system would change its nature. However, I remembered that even though the system could be quite the bastard at times, the missions it sets are never impossible. Or rather, my line of thought could have been wrong from the very start. These missions might be the type that requires indirect methods in order to successfully complete them. Perhaps, I can do this. Afterward, Crows picked up a suspicious little cat, one that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It is indeed suspicious. Not mentioning the fact a little cat wouldn't be able to survive in the cruel wilderness of the underground world, its attitude of ignoring the beast tamer's summoning ability and racing straight towards the young lady is suspicious too, no matter how one looks at it. Of course, Crows, whose maternal instinct surges from the cute meowing of the little cat, instantly bought a bottle of milk from the gnomes and happily fed it. Those darn gnome bastards, this milk is too diluted. Alright, from the moment she turned into a cat, Harlois's complaints have never stopped. Words like this is hurtful to the pride of the Queen of Banshees, and despite the soul being male, how could he look so much like a female, even using the excess meat on his chest to crush me? Your underlings are indeed a bunch of perverts, and you are the king of perverts. No, god of perverts pop out from her mouth. Considering that I still need her in order to complete the act, all the complaints about the milk being too diluted and such are dealt with in the same manner, ignored. Since there is a cat as well as a young lady raising the cat now, what needs to happen next is the losing of the cat, as the mission dictates. However, losing the cat for no reason at all is illogical. Thus, the moment the righteous holy knight Trolland arrives on the scene, Herald, titled as the Dragon of Absolute Evil, happens to be intending to do something to the frightened and pitiful cat who is bundled into a ball. Alright, when I heard that the angry owner who lost her cat brought her subordinates to beat up Beifeng frenziedly, I shed a few drops of crocodile tears. You might be innocent this time, but who asked you to always? When I thought about his usual routine, even the little shred of guilt remaining in me turns into anger. Crows, don't give me any face, beat him to death. He isn't innocent. Master, woo you, it's all thanks to you arriving on time, otherwise, my virgin body would have been ruined. Harlois's frightened shivers weren't actually faked. She was totally helpless facing the legendary beast tamer on her own, and now that she has finally found her pillar of support, she starts whimpering on the spot. In an instant, my face scrunches together. Virgin body? Let's not mention how the experienced Harlois didn't have such a thing in the first place, to actually drive the Queen of Banshees to tears and frighten that vicious mouth of hers to obediently call me master. Beifeng, what exactly did you do? You are really too heartless, laying your hands on something so small. Considering the large difference in physique, I suddenly became curious about how he was going to lay his hands on her. However, After coming up with some conjectures, I became too disgusted to continue thinking about it. Daily mission: every epic hero starts from helping little girls find their missing cats. Has been completed. You are rewarded with 3 fate points. Continue working hard. Alright, ignoring the daily brutal beating of Bai Feng, I took Harlois with me and silently left the tent full of mysterious life forms. Looks like I avoided having my fate points deducted. Continue working hard to slay dragons? Isn't that simply seeking death? But suddenly, I recall the system's recent bizarre change and its attitude all this time. Considering the unusual way this cat mission was completed, some thoughts start to conceptualize in my head. Given the darned nature of the system, if a mission is unable to be completed, it would have come up with a sky-high reward to disgust me. Is there really no way to claim these 100 points? After hesitating for a moment, I nod my head. Since there's no loss in failure, then it's worth a try. Thus, just outside the temporary campsite's largest tent, I find old merchant Carter, who is very familiar with this road. What? There really is the den of an evil dragon nearby? Although it's just a young black dragon, it often assaults people and robs goods, bringing a massive headache to merchant parties. However, our party has a legend rank Holy Knight, so we don't really have to be worried about the crafty dragon coming to attack us. However, just last week, it wiped out 2 merchant parties. Right, I heard that because it greatly affects the movement of merchant parties traveling to and fro the city, Luoang Mountain City has sent troops to get rid of it several times, but on all occasions, it has managed to escape beforehand. Fine, I roughly get it now. Thus, I raise my longsword high in the air and shout a vow. Those who commit sins must be punished. Fine, since the evil dragon exists, then allow me, who represents justice and the holy light, to destroy that evil black dragon. I shall single-handedly remove its head. Alright, not just Carter, everyone in the vicinity stares at me with a look of surprise. This isn't only because of the suicidal vow I made, which fulfills the style of the Holy Knights, but also because of my extremely loud voice. Probably, half of the entire camp have heard my words. Afterward, as I expected, I feel the power of death that was circling around the clouds move once again. Thus, I nod my head, satisfied. Under everyone's awe, yet another Choni Holy Knight who has been brainwashed by the holy light, I won't walk you out gazes sending me off. I left the campsite by myself. The dragon's lair isn't too far away. Following the trails it left behind, I find the way very quickly. Who left the tracks? There is no need to pursue this question. Meow. Roland, did you see that scorpion tail lion that was all scorched black? It seems to have been electrocuted. Are there any powerful lightning element magic beasts nearby? Oh, there could be one, I guess. Hey, do you really intend to look for trouble directly with that adult dragon? Given your trashy battle power now, you'll be instant killed. Don't worry, I am confident. Afterward, the sight that I see the moment I enter the dragon's den, toughens my resolution. Wow, these unlucky ogres were obviously torn apart by brute force. Did they meet the titans or giant behemoths? They probably met the bull demon king. I think that I roughly understand where that ridiculous confidence of yours comes from. It is sufficient for you to just understand. Don't say anything unnecessary. We are here to solo a dragon. Emphasizing on the solo, there are no mistakes in my words, no matter how many times I say them. Whoa, that must be the bull demon king you spoke of. That silly cow actually thought he could use that banana leaf to hide. That's weird. Why is he naked? Sigh. I'm getting more and more worried for the Supreme Court now. Cough. Harl Ois, stop speaking nonsense. What silly, naked cow are you speaking of? It's probably just some kind pervert walking by. Yes, we came alone. But, what about those? Not too far away from my line of sight, a group of hook horror zombies is currently fighting with their brethren. The biggest weakness of zombies is absent in this bunch. Slow movement. Not only are they agile and fearless of death, the brainless zombies even fight by cooperating together through battle formations, completely suppressing the original hook horrors. They are obviously the product of a master of necromancy. Looking at the excellent positioning of the zombies in their formation, the person behind the zombies is most probably a top-tier death knight. Perhaps and just a bunch of kind passers-by. Don't worry, they will leave soon enough. Zzgtttt. A furious bolt of lightning flashes past me. Regardless of whether it was the zombie formation or the hook horrors that were kept by the evil dragon, they all disappeared without a trace. The only thing that remains is a plot of scorched land. This? Even Harlois is at a loss for words. This is obviously the god lightning of the Titans. I reckon it's just a kind-hearted Ultraman shooting an Ultra Beam. There are really a lot of passers-by today, huh? Let's not bother about these kind-hearted passers-by, let's go slay the dragon. Fine, I won't be surprised at all if I see a black dragon bound in ropes later on. Don't worry, I won't be surprised as well. Things were as expected. In the deepest region of the dragon den, I finally see the evil dragon. Although it isn't tied up, its actual fate is much worse. The entire body of this man-eating evil dragon is completely scorched black. Its wings were ripped apart and thrown to the corner, while all four of its limbs were completely sealed by spatial magic. The power of death is currently corroding its entire body. From the looks of it, it was obviously lynched by a group of semi-gods earlier on. Even if we leave it be, it definitely doesn't have much longer to live. Silently unsheathing my sword, my blade swings downwards for holy light. Clang. Alright, the dragon hide is too tough. This cheap longsword is too useless, not at all able to actually penetrate it, and is instantly deflected. But it's not a big deal. Let's try again a few more times. For justice. Clang. For honor. Clang. For. The show that is going on in this instant is destined to be a long one. Harlois is already starting to turn around in circles to chase her own tail out of boredom. If it wasn't taking all of my effort to think of something new to shout out, I sincerely wanted to remind her that cats don't chase their own tails, only dogs do. For fate points. Alright, after I sending more than 30 slashes at him, I couldn't think of any new phrases to shout. The evil dragon also looks at me with resentment. His crying face seems to be saying, "Can't you be any faster? This is really torturing for a dragon. I still have to collect my bento box, you know." For the second uncle's father's neighbor's daughter's girlfriend's teacher's dog. Alright, I don't know whether it's due to the godly effect of these words, or that the black dragon finally succumbed to its injuries, but after that last phrase, its neck bends and it falls dead to the floor. Ha, finally, I finally successfully slew the dragon. The reason why I'm panting so heavily isn't because I'm tired from swinging my sword, but rather because I'm tired of shouting those war cries. Confirming that only the user's own magic pet Harlois was in the vicinity when the user completed his mission, thus fulfilling the solo requirement of the mission. Congratulations for completing the daily mission as a knight. One must solo a giant dragon. 100 fate points awarded. As all of today's daily missions are completed, an additional 100 fate points is awarded. System notice: to think that you would actually notice. However, don't expect tomorrow's daily mission to be that simple. Alright, I already don't feel like talking about anything else. System: you need to top up on some restraint. In the temporary campsite, a group of knights is currently sparring. As the icy cold swords clash together unseparate, what surprised everyone was that the one being suppressed in the duel isn't the rookie knight who inconceivably managed to successfully slay a dragon, but the silver rank justice knight. As expected, if I only take into account strength, despite the massive gap in level, I definitely have the strength of at least a gold rank warrior. Although the main stat of Dark Elf Knights is strength, I don't think that the Dark Elves, who are naturally lacking in strength compared to other races, are able to compete with my 20-point strength, which transcends the limits of mortals. Seems like you're not all looks. The strength of your chart isn't bad, it's just that I have no idea how good your techniques are. It better not be just for show, with you crumbling in just a few moments. Despite being completely suppressed while crossing blows, despite her hands being completely numb, the mad dog Momo didn't forget to taunt me. Her words earn her cheers from the onlookers. However, how could I fall for such an obvious taunt? There is no reason for me to give up this opportunity when a dark elf, who is naturally lacking in strength, is foolish enough to pit her strength against me while crossing blows. The barking of the losing dog? I roar, as I grip my sword with both hands, sweeping downwards violently. Our swords clash together, and under my powerful sweep, due to the difference in our brute strength, Momo is forced into a one-leg kneeling position. However, after undergoing countless spars in Luhuang Mountain City, my opponent isn't just any ordinary knight. She has already started mumbling the incantations long before this. I must say, compared to the priestess and holy knight, whose main stat is will, the law jobs which depend mainly on intelligence, are much more suited to the dark elves who have superior intelligence. Aha! Incantation of law, equality of life forms. Darn! It is this shameless skill again. The light of order shines and the situation reverses instantly. Momo, who was forced into a kneeling position, bounces up in an instant. On the other hand, I end up being suppressed. One of the abilities of the god equipment origin of Codex, all is equal in the face of law, demarcate a zone and lower the rank and stats of people within the zone to be of equal level as the user. For every 10 seconds this effect is sustained, one faith will be consumed. This incantation of law, equality of life forms, is the simplified version of the god equipment origin of Codex's all is equal in the face of law, and it's well known as a shameless skill. Being a simplified law incantation, its effects are far from that of the god equipment, so it is only able to lower a single stat of the opponent. Also, the shortest time taken to complete the incantation is 6 seconds, whereas the duration of the effects is only 10 seconds. However, if the spell is successfully released, its effects would definitely disgust any opponent. The strength on my window immediately falls to 16. Although our basic stats are the same, Momo has nearly 40 levels of advantage, which allows her to suppress me easily while crossing blows. Should I say that I brought this upon myself? At this moment, Momo strikes heavy blows, one after another. Cling cling clang. In the midst of the repeated sounds of longswords striking against each other, the situation has been reversed. I am forced to continuously retreat. Damn it. 6, 5, 4, I still have 3 seconds more. I bite my teeth together, trying my best to survive these 10 seconds. However, on the 7th second, the heavy blows suddenly feel lighter. I have returned to my normal condition. In that instant, I remember the race talent I had recently obtained. The Titan body actually works on conditions inflicted by the power of law, as expected of the Diamond class race talent. Titan body, Diamond class race talent. Your physical body contains the primal strength of the Titans. Your skin will gradually turn into that of the Titans. Reduce any damage and debuffs by 30% and reduce all damage incurred by 5 points. This is the race talent I awakened when my stamina reached 20, transcending the limits of mortals. Its explanation may be simple, but its effects are incredibly useful. Exquisite two-handed sword, iron, attack power, 0 to 8 system notice. 2 broken swords that cost 10 gold coins, and you still expect there to be a system notice? I have nothing else to say. You are actually thick-skinned enough to use such a broken sword. Even I feel embarrassed for you. Actually, I still have a couple of good swords here and they are quite cheap. Of course, I doubt that a small troublesome curse could beat you down. To tell the truth, I still feel a bit resentful that I didn't manage to turn you into a girl. Why don't you try the Gakuten again? I have a large quantity of Spring of Drowned Girl, it would be a waste to just leave it there. Alright, the fact that I've been scammed multiple times has made me realize the importance of cherishing one's life and the importance of staying away from the system. Let us ignore this bizarre resentment of the darn system. Back to the main topic at hand. If I use this lousy sword to cut myself, without any additional increments from my strength, the highest damage I can deal to myself is 2 points. Furthermore, there is an above 80% possibility that the damage would be ignored altogether. Even taking into account the additional damage increments from the opponent's strength, I am wearing a Knight's Plate Mail, which provides me with excellent protection. Thus, I have nothing to fear. At this moment, under the effects of the Titan body, the 10-second law incantation was forcefully reduced to 7 seconds. Furthermore, this reduction was unexpected. In an actual battle, every split second counts, needless to say, a miscalculation of a full 3 seconds. Thus, making full use of this slip, my longsword crashes furiously into hers, and with a twist, I send Momo's two-handed mithril sword into the air. Making use of the temporary gap in the opponent's attention, which was captured by the flying sword, I pick up speed and knock violently into her. A full power crash by a holy knight with 20 strength, dressed fully in armor that's comparable to a small railway train. In an instant, Momo is sent flying straight out. Even though she manages to stab her sword into the ground in time to adjust her balance and stabilize her footing, her head is already spinning from the impact. A silver rank knight who lost her sense of balance? That's just a large, middle-skinned, fixed punching bag. Thus, I made use of this opportunity to use the other Diamond class race talent. Since it is awakened from my strength breaking into 20, then it's probably a powerful offensive skill. The light of order descends upon my sword. Prepare for my own strike, sword of order. But before I can finish my sentence, I am pulled backward by a humongous force, and my iron longsword is deflected. That's enough, Momo. Stop looking down on others. From the moment you were forced to use the incantation of law, Roland had already won. Alright, going by the pact made, apologize to him. In the face of the legend Knight Diana, as a bronze holy knight, I am far from being able to match her. I was easily stopped in an instant. At this moment, I suddenly recall Momo's proud words, saying that she can easily take care of me using only her swordsmanship. In the end, not only did she use the incantation of law, but she was even suppressed and defeated. Going by the conditions we had promised earlier, I had long won the match. But even though I won this time, many of my shortcomings were exposed. Just looking at swordsmanship and battle experience, it was obvious that I should have a complete advantage over her, but there were many times where, despite my eyes and thoughts having already reacted, my physical body was unable to keep up. This wasn't a problem due to the composition of my physical body but rather, the lack of training of a newborn physical body. Yet to undergo training, the sword techniques haven't been carved onto this body on an instinctual level, resulting in an experienced mind being unable to cope physically. I smile and shake my head towards Momo, who reluctantly came over to apologize, indicating that I'm not bothered about it. However, my mind is somewhere else. Looks like I have been slackening recently to the point I have forgotten my basics. Let me start from 10,000 swings every day to restore them slowly. However, what surprised me most was when an unfamiliar visitor interrupted my training plans, while I was swinging my blade in my tent alone at midnight. Moon Knight Diana quietly sneaks into my tent with an embarrassed blush on her face. Is this the legendary night attack? My King Father in heaven, to think that reviving would allow me, Roland, to have such a day dawn upon me. Ah, as expected of the legendary Dark Elves, for them to be so direct, I am so lucky. However, when I recall my little partner who is still undergoing puberty, I almost cry tears of blood on the spot. Misfortune. Is there anything more unfortunate than this? However, the moment Diana opens her mouth, I know that I have jinxed myself. The god of misfortune is still looming over me. Roland, no, Lich Roland, Lord Woomians, it has been long since we last met. Chapter 73, Misunderstanding. Are you Lord Roland, Lord Woomians, Small Rollo, or all three of them? In a tent at midnight, the interaction between a male and female often brings about an intimate atmosphere. But, following Diana's question, that sliver of an intimate atmosphere instantly scatters in the air, and somehow, feelings of weakness and depression cause me to lower my head silently. As expected, I knew that for my entire life, my only luck with women is one that would bring catastrophe rather than romance. Sometimes, there would be those whose eyes get clouded as they fall in love with me, but they were all either bone dragons or perverted serial murderers. I will probably remain like this for the rest of my life, destined to never obtain the favor of a normal female. TL, Peach Blossom is often used to describe luck with women. Alright, her noticing it is within my expectations. What made me depressed was the fact I was cursed to a fate where women would only bring catastrophe and not romance. However, I only expected that I would be exposed as Lich Roland. I didn't expect that my identity as Woomians would be found out as well. The reason why I was sure I would be exposed that day, when Xiao Hong rolled around the floor laughing right after seeing me, she shouted out my name in the midst of her taunting. In the den, the loudness of a giant dragon's voice isn't that far off from thunder. Back then, Diana, who brought me to her, didn't have time to move that far away. Unless she was deaf, it would be weird if she didn't come to a realization. Then, Lord, what should I address you as? Roland, anything will do. Since the pronunciation is the same. However, How did you tie this look of mine with Rolo and the rest? Now, I am in need of a reliable helper. Even if she hadn't approached me, it would have only been a matter of time before I sought her out instead. However, I am indeed curious on what exactly gave me away. Your ring and that little cat. Alright, I smacked my head. I finally understood what the problem was. On my right hand is Elise's ring. Also, the Queen of Banshee's cat form had once appeared in front of Diana. To a legend rank knight, being sharp-sighted isn't a difficult task. It is national that she would notice it. Alright, the reason why you avoided the crowd to look for me tonight definitely can't be just to expose my identity. Or rather, there is some private matter you need to talk to me about. The grey elf, who was still valiant a second ago, suddenly lowers her head and nods, flushed with embarrassment. The redness extends all the way to her ears. I widen my mouth and accidentally knock over my cup, causing it to fall to the floor. Could it be that spring is coming? She is actually into me? The dark elf in front of me is one of the very few who has a conscience within the town security army. She possesses moral integrity, something that probably couldn't be found within 1 in 10,000 elves, making her an anomaly. She is known to be conservative and traditional, and because of this, she is even nicknamed as a dark elf-skinned dwarf. In the entire city, she is quite well respected. Due to her legend rank strength and her identity as the captain of the town's security, along with such legendary events where she brought her tribesmen to flee 4,000 miles, there are already people who put her side by side with the legendary grey elf adventurer Lich. The only reason why she remains single even to this day, is because she makes those going after her feel ashamed of themselves. But now, her heart is starting to flutter because of a stranger like me. I pinch my own face and it hurts. It probably isn't to dream. The omnipotent system, I won't talk bad about you anymore. I am thankful for the +19 charm that you blessed me with. May the system bless me so that the next stats raised will also be charm. Haha, living off one's face is the way to go. A holy knight is a job that depends on his face, and so my Roland era has finally arrived. Finally, Diana, whose head was lowered and was playing with her fingers, musters her courage. Lord. I'm here. I have something I want to consult with you, but I am embarrassed to talk about. I love matters which people are embarrassed to talk about. You won't mock me? Even though I am a holy knight, I have acted so shamefully. No, of course not. Shameful or whatsoever, I like them the most. That's great, Lord. I knew I could trust you. Please guide the path for my wayward self. I am currently lost in the pursuit of my faith in the holy light. What? Seemingly realizing that what she said was too concise, Diana immediately fills me in on the details. It seems that the shameful matter that Diana was talking about is that, despite being a holy knight, without realizing it, she had somehow abandoned her faith. Initially, just like most of the Dark Elves, she worshipped Lorsai. However, as she hated vying with others, she determinedly chose to worship the Holy Light. But the Holy Light views undead and demons as its mortal enemy. In that previous battle, the undead who turned into heroic spirits, weren't as chaotic and evil as preached by the teachings of the Holy Light. Thus, she started to have doubts once again towards her faith in the Holy Light. What started as a small crack, became a gaping hole due to my appearance. With the physical body of an undead, I ascended to godhood, and now, the avatar that I sent down is actually capable of using holy light. Does this mean that undead aren't evil? Could it be that the god of law and the god of holy light are the same god? All of my actions were overthrowing the basic teachings of the holy light faith. This kind of fact, which would normally crush one's perception of matters, caused her faith to waver. So she hoped for me to clear up her confusion. It seems that she views me as an avatar sent down by the god of law, which explains why she was bizarrely solemn throughout the journey. At this moment, she is trying to consult me about her faith. Hearing this, I suddenly feel my blood pressure rising and blood veins start appearing around my pupils. I feel like I suddenly understand the principle behind the berserk skill of beastmen. So, this fellow is trying to use me as a priest. What about the romance we were promised? What about the night assault by the beauty we agreed on? What about the instincts of dark elves and their variety of techniques that we spoke about? Darn system, a beauty actually coming in the middle of the night to consult me about her faith? I am not a priest of holy light. Why did you look for me? I am a male, you know, A beast. I will transform at midnight. Alright, I know that my little fellow can't do anything, but it's fine to have some idle chat for our relationship to progress in future, right? As a wizard with strong credentials, an inconceivable flame starts burning in my chest. I secretly make up my mind. Since you're consulting me, then I will teach you what gods really are and what faith is about. Firstly, I am not an avatar of the God of Law. I am a living mortal. Let me tell you the secrets of the gods. Firstly, all of the teachings of true gods are bullshit. Activating my magic ring and the detection barrier it came with, I disrespectfully expose the secrets of the gods, despite being in existence just one step away from becoming a true god. True gods are just a unique existence. They live off and evolve through faith. You can view them as a portion of the world. Thinking of them as leeches of the world system wouldn't be wrong as well. Thus, under the prerogative of that inconceivable flame, I tried my best to talk the worst about gods. I believe that after this night is over, the supposed wavering in faith will just turn out to be a joke. I can assure her that she will become like me. After thoroughly understanding what gods really are, she will treat faith in true gods as something laughable. All in all, the gods of the Order faction are all pitiful worms who are mixed together with the concept of order. Even more so, the God of Holy Light is an ultimate pitiful worm who doesn't even possess a self. Regardless of whether it is my clone, the God of Law Womians or that nameless God of Holy Light, they are just God power regulation systems who work by following guidelines. They are just like another type of machine similar to Roland number 2. They are inflexible and will lend their powers to anyone who obeys their laws. The teachings of the God of Law was written by a mortal like myself. As the God of Law is the very concept of justice, even if I am unable to leave a backdoor for him, even if he has lost his self-awareness, he can still be fair and treat all prayers and salvations from the mortal world with fairness. As for the teachings of the Holy Light, it was made up by a bunch of people from the Holy Church. Using the idea of purification as its basis, they added many additional ideas to it. I doubt even the God of Holy Light would be able to comprehend them, so there is no need for you to be bothered over those messed up teachings. Some words don't have to be finished. If the God of Holy Light is the incarnation of the concept of purification, then the God of Law is indeed the incarnation of the concept of justice. The incantation of law equality of life forms is the most obvious example. However, if it was possible to leave a backdoor for the God of Law and if there were to be exceptions to the law for some people, then he would be a failure as a God of justice. However, sometimes a backdoor isn't the only requirement to cheat. The fact that Woomians, as one of my clones, ascended to godhood remains an important taste that I prepared. Of course, I won't divulge such important secrets to Diana. However, the words I had actually said were sufficient enough to crumble the faith of the legend Holy Knight's world. And this is the exact result that I wanted. The situations that I will face in the future will be too difficult to overcome. In the surface where I have no friends or kindred, I will require a helper who is willing to devote their entire soul and all thoughts into helping me. A powerful ace at hand, before I grow strong once again, one whom I can truly trust. However, what left me puzzled was that even in Luhuang Mountain City, where experts could be found everywhere, there was basically no one at all who could serve as my trump card, while still being able to move freely in the human society. We can exclude the guys from the Undead District and the Zilua royal faction right from the very start. If they were to head towards the human kingdoms on the surface, it would be equivalent to a declaration of war between the undead and the living. It is the same for the 4 heavenly kings of law under my command. Kale.D lacks stamina and mobility, but more importantly, it is too striking for a high elf to be in human society. As an ex-senator of Wanfu country, his appearance would stir up much trouble. It is the same for the other heavenly kings of law as well. Well, Lily's from the blood tribe, so there's nothing more to elaborate on. Kevin is a human, but he is shackled by work and his family. Besides, as a gold-rank Justice Knight, he might not be effective enough to serve as a trump card able to reverse a bad situation. As for the strongest candidate for my helper, the hidden Heavenly King Elisa, even if she still remains in Luhuang Mountain City, there is not a single possibility for me to bring her around. After all, It is an impossible mission to find another race with a reputation worse than the demons. The traits of the demons are very obvious and the power of chaos that fills their body equally as striking, so just about any holy knight would be able to notice it. As for the Naked King, even if I was willing to bring him along, and the Luang Mountain City Supreme Court was willing to let him out, we would have to place a collar on his neck to disguise him as a Taran slave. After all, the humans on the surface view most of the beastmen as either enemies or slaves. As for the town security group, unless they're willing to endure that excruciating moonlight ritual, and also considering the Dark Elves' horrendous reputation on the surface that would lead to them being burned on a stake, bringing them along would definitely end in trouble. In the end, there are many experts among my underlings, but in order not to be branded as a heretic, there is no one suitable to accompany me. After much consideration, this innocent grey elf legend Holy Knight became the ideal candidate. Not only is she trustworthy, her fighting prowess is up to par, her potential is limitless, as proven in the history, and more importantly, she is naive and easy to fool. This is also why I said that even if she didn't come knocking, I would have taken the initiative to look for her. Naive, strong and beautiful, such an ideal bodyguard. Alright, after confirming the target, a certain unscrupulous fellow continued to coax Diana. In order to attract the other party to come under my command, I vaguely revealed my large plan, making her struggle between the dilemma of following her heart and taking action. In the end, at daybreak, Diana tells me that she wants to return to her tent to consider it. When she stands up to leave, I can see that her beautiful eyes are bloodshot from the lack of sleep. The valiant female knight seen on previous days was mentally drained. She looked so fragile, as though she was just pulled into an alley by a dozen beastmen to spend the night. When I saw the hesitation in her eyes, I nodded my head in satisfaction. From my understanding of her, I reckoned that her reply would most probably gratify me. Looking at the sky, gradually turning lighter, I too felt a little tired from staying up the night. I decided to make use of this time to slip in an hour or two of sleep to refresh myself. But 10 minutes after shutting my eyes, in my semi-conscious state, I was assaulted by a violent dog. "You bastard! What did you do to our big sister?" The angry female elf rushed into my tent with a sword. Without saying anything else, she flipped my bed with a kick. "What?" Momo has never seen Big Sister so fragile before. She was crying while walking back into her tent. "You bastard, what did you do to Big Sister? Could it be that you forced yourself on her despite having lousy techniques? Big Sister is so pitiful. Even though it was her first time, she met someone like you, a person only good for their looks, leaving her with tragic memories." TL, Momo describes him as a silver-like solder spear. Solder looks like silver, but is actually quite a weak alloy, meaning that it looks strong and pretty but is actually useless. What the hell is she talking about? Looking at this fellow's messy clothes and her bloodshot eyes, she might have even been eavesdropping outside all night. Secretly, I felt thankful that I activated a barrier to keep away any eavesdroppers earlier on, since I was going to talk about the secrets of gods. However, Momo was getting more and more agitated as she spoke on. I told her that she shouldn't just look at the outer appearance of men. There are many of them who have the looks but can't be used. If I knew that it would end up like this, I should have stopped her before Big Sister walked into your tent. That way Momo could have taught you some techniques first. Although Momo doesn't have much experience as well, Momo has read a lot of books and interacted with the sisters often. By combining theory with the practical and practicing it on the spot, I could have guaranteed that the both of you will yin at Hashat, giving you to a perfect and pleasurable first time. Every time I think that the darn system and I lack restraint, whenever I look at these tough females speaking words that should be censored, I always feel like I am still a person with morals, a noble man, a man who has transcended beyond cheap interests. Alright, having my limited sleeping time interrupted, I, who was lacking in sleep from the start, was quite pissed off. What happens next is, of course, the reenactment of the duel between knights that happened yesterday. When this ridiculous fight ended, I went to fetch a bucket of water, but unexpectedly, I realized that everyone was looking at me differently. Seeing how the two flower guardians made the obscene hand sign of a finger passing through a hole, as a man, I immediately understood. Even with the cover of the night sky, The concealment techniques of a knight dressed in armor is definitely not going to work. The way she walked into my tent, with the clanging of her armor, had ensured it. When everyone saw that Diana had stayed in my tent for an entire night and then had come out with bloodshot eyes and a drained expression, I doubt that I would be able to clear myself of suspicion even if I were to jump into the Yellow River. This time even Harlois, who was closer to me than the rest, kept her distance, gazing at me as though I were something dirty. After all, in her perspective, for such a thing to happen between Diana and me, when we were barely acquainted, would mean that I am a playboy. Alright, if something happened, I would have confessed to it at this point. But, I really am innocent. Yet, if I were to say that Diana and I stayed up all night just to talk about faith in gods and that it was a pure relationship between a guy and a girl, even I wouldn't be able to convince myself. Taking into the consideration that Harlois may be able to contribute to my future plans, I can only thicken my skin and try to explain the situation to her. But, seeing in her eyes how guarded she is towards me, it seems that it wasn't very effective. Furthermore, what happened next would condemn me to a fate of being unable to clear up this misunderstanding. From not too far away, Diana removes her heavy armor. Dressed in light garments, with a silver avenger in her hand, Diana walks slowly towards me with a solemn expression. It is an expression of realization, like a priestess walking to the altar to sacrifice herself. Right after she walks up to me, she suddenly kneels on both knees in front of me, and with a serious face, she slowly raises her arms, presenting her own sacred sword to me. My lord, I vow to follow your teachings my entire life and become your most reliable support. Your enemy will be the target of my longsword. Your happiness will be my greatest honor and my life's greatest aim is to become someone you can be proud of. Alright, I instantly understood the situation. Kneeling with one knee is how knights show their loyalty to their master, whereas one only kneels with both knees to one's elders and gods. She is treating me like a real god by bowing to me. The seemingly intimate vows at the start is just a prayer that one says to declare your faith and allegiance to a true god. I might be able to understand it, but the others don't. Big Sister Roland, what kind of voodoo did you cast on Big Sister to seduce her? You're going to die today. Alright, the violent dog immediately turns into a mad dog. This blatant killing intent and the crazed swings that bring wind pressure with it, seems that she's serious about this. Ah, I knew that those elves and humans were unreasonable. Look, they hooked up together within just a few days. Look at the human male, there's always a lecherous smile on his face. He is obviously not a good person. Bar, you actually dare to smear my reputation. I will definitely get my revenge. Furthermore, exactly what part of my smile looks lecherous to you? It is obviously the 59th style Holy Knight standard smile, a sharp weapon used to earn the donations of rich ladies, a secret technique that I spent quite a period of time to master. There is yet another talented one from my generation, rejoice, rejoice. Alright, if this wasn't praise from a degenerate dwarf who engages in drugs, pornographic materials, and gambling, I would have accepted the praise happily. DSK, a male without any hair on his face, what is so good looking about him? This. Alright, a person with such a unique sense of beauty, everyone should know who he is. Misfortune. Stop chasing me, I really only spoke with your big sister for the entire night. In the end, the one who screamed so pathetically was me, who left my sword in the tent and is currently trying my best to escape the pursuit of the mad dog. HMPH. Talking for an entire night and not doing it even when you're losing sleep. Unless you're sexually impotent or a little brat who has yet to develop, is that even possible? You're too much. I will kill you. Alright, a certain someone just got stabbed in his fatal point and started brawling with Momo. Chapter 74, Absolute Gentleman Alliance. Walking on the familiar streets of Vance, I look at crowds of people walk to and fro once again. But the atmosphere is totally different this time around. It is still the same group of people, but the atmosphere is much lighter compared to how tense it was back then, during the period of the Alliance Conference. After reaching Vance, the shadows following behind us disappear one after another. Except for the silly Taran who returns back to the same path, the rest of them disappear into the underground tunnels, apparently heading straight for the surface. At this moment, while the merchant party is reorganizing their goods and supplies in Vance, I go off to settle some private matters, such as replacing that darned lousy metal sword, as well as registering as a small mercenary band. This would make it more convenient for us in the future. Mercenary? Us? Is there a need for it? Momo seems anxious to leave this city. Yes, if we were to assume identities as mercenaries, it would be more convenient for us to move about on the surface. I don't want to work for those humans. Of course, we are just creating the mercenary band. We won't be accepting any missions. I also don't have that much leisure time to roam about, so we are just assuming the identities of mercenaries. Like that, we can use missions as a reason to pass through different blockades. There are several countries that we have to go to after visiting the East Mist Communal Country, so it would be more convenient to obtain a license as mercenaries. Then, why do we have to register here? Can't we register on the surface? Momo and I are chatting in front of the mercenary guild. By our side, lying unconscious on the floor, is a dark elf who had just challenged us. The moonlight ritual isn't without a price. The right to move freely on the surface is exchanged by using one's life. For Lorsai, who views the entire dark elf tribe as her personal possession, the act of switching allegiance to the moon goddess is equal to slapping her hard on the face. For each family, Grey Elves are forever a special tribute to be presented to Lorsai. From the moment we stepped into the city, the news of 2 Grey Elves being present in this city has probably spread to the whole of the Dark Elf family. Maybe they even had internal conflict within the family, before coming to confront us. Thus, even though our time is tight, naturally, Momo could not comprehend my insistence on registering a mercenary band here in this town. Although there are mercenary guilds in every country, from another perspective, mercenaries are also a kind of spare military power for the city lord and the country. If you were to register on the surface and a war occurs on the land where you registered at, there is a high chance of getting involved in the battle. Oh, that's a reasonable explanation. Hearing my words, Momo nods her head. This madam here, although there is truth in the words of this little brother here, in actuality, that isn't the main point. Even if a country were to meet with its demise, the carefree mercenaries would never fight on the battlefield for free. That kind of spare military power is like ears of the deaf, decoration. The main motive of this little brother here is to probably make use of the one-of-a-kind advantage of the Vance Mercenary Guild, not requiring to produce identification so that one's identity cannot be dug up. Many criminals and murderers do the same. That is a rather valiant-looking, handsome centaur guy. Equipped with a purple-colored, human-shaped, soft copper plate mail on his upper body, he wore light horse armor on his lower body. On his back is a bow made of bones, radiating the orange glow of divine magic. That probably isn't any ordinary bow. Cassio? Yes, my lord. Although I have no idea how you persuaded that stubborn grandfather of mine to send me out, since he gave the order as the old chieftain, I will follow it. This person in front of me is one of the grandchildren of old Meniel, as well as brother in name to the new beastman sovereign Anya. However, unlike the rest of Anya's brothers who dote on her, Cassio is quite ambitious. And the truly troublesome thing about him is that he has the ability and prestige to turn his ambitions into reality. After going through multiple wars against outsiders, the Golden Bow Cassio is a well-known hero of his tribe. To old Meniel, it is a pity to kill this ambitious grandchild of his. However, there is a high chance of Cassio rebelling against Anya after his death, and it would be hard for her to suppress him. Thus, when I communicated with old Meniel through a certain channel to borrow an outstanding centaur archer, with no hesitation whatsoever, old Meniel thought of this golden bow. At this moment, Cassio stood there silently, looking like a sculpture of a well-built hero, uncaring of his surroundings. However, through his quivering ears and the fingers stroking on his arrows from time to time, there is probably nothing in our surroundings that could escape his senses. My lord, do we register now? No, we're waiting for another person. I promised to meet him here. Seeing how the Dark Elves are fearful of him, refusing to come up to stir trouble in his presence, at least up until now, the arrival of the seemingly respectful Cassio appears to be a good thing. However, to be able to strike fear in those scheming Dark Elves to the point they don't even dare to approach us, from another point of view, it shows how fearsome this man is. That silly unlucky lass cannot even begin to compare to him, no wonder old Meniel threw him out so happily. The reason why I want a center archer is because of the obvious shortcoming of having 3 knights in our party and not having any mounts, the lack of mobility. Due to the presence of centaur tribes in quite a few elf kingdoms on the surface, centaurs are one of the few beastmen races who can move freely in the surface and the underground world. As long as we do some concealment, no one would be able to guess that Cassio is from the underground world. As for the other person, he would be able to make up for our shortcomings through another aspect. Very soon, the person I am waiting for arrives. However, rather than saying that the person is a human, it would be more appropriate to call him a human-shaped piece of armor. A gigantic gray armor that covers every single feature rather than the 2 vaguely clear eyes that could be seen through the bizarre bird head helmet. On his back, there is a 3-meter-long spear, while on his waist, 2 swords and a dwarf rifle can be found. It is a weird combination of weapons that leaves a big question mark about his job. However, seeing the string of dwarf grenades on his waist and the drumming sounds from the gunpowder bag on his back, he has probably just finished stocking up on his firepower. The eccentric prince? When we were stationed in Vance previously, Momo had also met this Prince Clint from Iron City. Instantly, she shivers and instinctively takes 2 steps backward. Of course, I know what it is that frightened her so much that she had to retreat. That Prince Clint is a human gunpowder vault and an obvious battle maniac. His nerves are incredibly oversensitive. An accidental bump to him, explosion. Suddenly walking past him, explosion. Entering his room without his permission, still an explosion. Fine, I'll admit it. Even if you don't do anything, as long as you don't stay a safe distance away from him, there could be an explosion as well. However, different from the Bar brothers who often gets caught in their own explosions, all of his explosions and traps are systematic. They are obviously controlled and intentional. He doesn't trust anyone and is forever wary of everyone. This obviously has something to do with how he was brought up. I'm not some psychiatrist who can treat his post-war syndrome. The reason why I wanted him to join us is because his alertness and intuition could be useful to me. Most of the time, the reason why people lose their life on a journey is not because of a strong enemy charging straight at you, but rather, the poisonous snake hiding in the grass, stabbing your back with a dagger. I have a feeling that his intuition for danger will be extremely useful to us. Clint, nice to meet you. I am Roland, Holy Knight Roland. You should have received our notice. In this temporary team, I'll be your leader. That iron helmet nods his head, showing that he has no objections. Fine, now that everyone's here, let's go in. Let's hope that Diana has finished her cleaning mission. Yes, cleaning mission. At the window where mission details are given and where completed missions are reported to, a group of reckless mercenaries is already lying all over the place. They are the targets for her cleaning. This isn't the first time I am assuming the role of a mercenary. Upon seeing newcomers, these fellows who often sell their life for money will test their strength. This is a warning towards the newcomers who will be competing against them for mission resources, as well as an initiation ritual to welcome and bless them. Of course, if you pass the test, it would be a blessing, but if you don't, it will just be a brutal initiation ritual. In my perspective, since it is impossible to avoid clashing with them, then we should throw the legend Holy Knight Diana at them and let them crash headlong into a metal plate. Of course, at the end of the clash, the bunch of unfortunate fellows lying on the floor is the losers. Slowly walking to Diana's side, I flashed my standard 59th style business smile and spoke to the service personnel. I would like to register a small mercenary band. The leader is me and the vice leader is this beautiful lady here. Alright, alright. The mercenaries who are currently lying on the floor are actually the core members of this mercenary guild. They would be really foolish if they still don't get that they've met someone beyond their abilities. May I ask what is the name of the mercenary band? Momo and her little friends. Alright, everyone ignores this female elf who is trying to act cute. Law and Holy Light. We have Justice Knights and Holy Knights. I find this title very suitable for us, Diana spoke after a moment's hesitation. I shake my head. From a certain perspective, this name is also representative of Diana's dilemma. Trying to lean towards both sides of the fence also means not being on either side of the fence. It isn't acceptable to waver continuously between the two, I pointed out meaningfully to her. Diana hesitates for another moment before finally nodding her head. Then, law and justice. I shake my head once again. This name would mean that we are related to the god of law. It would restrict the movements of the mercenary band. Furthermore, it would easily serve as a spark in starting pointless conflicts. Thus, I threw out the fantastic name that I had prepared for a very long time. It is a name that is much more endearing than Adang and Abbas, an even better sounding name. The New Freedom Gentlemen Alliance. Immediately, the face of the two town security members in front me crumble. One draws her sword, while the other one stares furiously at me. How could they accept naming the mercenary band they will belong to with the name of their mortal foes? I agree, I think that Gentleman Alliance sounds great. A familiar figure suddenly appears in front of us. Instantly, as though meeting the gigantic beast from our nightmares, we instinctively retreat 2 steps. Bei Ifling, why are you here? Of course it is because I want to form a mercenary band with you all to tour the surface. Rubbish, didn't you say that you wanted to go on a journey to find your true self? Alright, looking at how he is salivating while staring fixedly at the center archer, I immediately understand his true purpose. I will say this: don't even think about it. There is no way we will allow you to join us. Actually, I am quite strong as well. I am definitely a qualified beast tamer. Of course I know that he is an extremely qualified beast tamer, otherwise, he would have been beaten to death from all the trouble he kept stirring up. Also, given his fervent love for pets, I wouldn't be surprised if he suddenly forges love for wild beast or similar soul imprints along the way, and advances into the realm of legends. However, even though the beast tamer possesses decent long-range combat abilities, able to use his pets for scouting and surveillance and is overall a strength that we require, I still decided to look for Cassio and Clint so as to avoid teaming up with this pervert. However, I think that Gentleman Alliance isn't sufficient to describe that strong passion within us. I suggest that we name it Wild Brothers Club. Alright, he seems to have long thought of himself as part of the band, to actually ask directly for a pen to write down that incredibly peculiar name. Stop it. Don't even think about it. Alright, those two from town security can no longer suppress the excitement in their hearts, and as usual, they use their fists to express their deep feelings. As for me, I made use of the chaos to rush to the confused service personnel and said, "Absolute Gentleman Alliance, thank you." Chapter 75, The Surface Lanes Fort, or Lanes Stronghold, is the city nearest to the underground tunnel's exit. It is also the city which we chose to reside in. The Lane's stronghold lies on the Kier Highlands. Located on the lands of the Ming United Kingdom, it is one of the sturdiest forts in the entire country. Designed by master architects, the thick brick walls are both elegant and strong. Spanning 10 meters tall and 3 meters thick, the enemy they had in mind when designing it was the giant tribe. Man-eating fish can be found filling the moat. The reason? They have one good neighbor. The entrance of the underground world is always open. Anyone can enter, anyone can exit. The seasonal plundering of the underground beast man, the traditional training of the dark elves to assault the surface elves deep in the night, the departure of red dragons and black dragons through the underground tunnels to look for new flavors, the liches and necromancers who sneak out in search of experimental materials, the demons who look for tributes, the worshippers of malevolent gods. Alright, even I find it reasonable for the citizens of the underground world to be exiled and viewed with hostility. At least, just counting those in the underground tunnel, we have met 3 Dark Elf assault parties and 2 Beastmen scouting teams. The latter, after seeing Cassio, bows and leaves, whereas the former, upon catching sight of the Grey Elves, are stunned for a moment and without any hesitation whatsoever, change their training targets and pounce towards us. Alright, just after forming our band, I was already planning to conduct a little bit of training so as to grind our teamwork together, as well as to see the fighting abilities of the newcomers. However, it was when Cassio raised his bone bow to point the golden arrow in the bowstring towards one elf after another, as though choosing between targets. Someone shouted the golden bow, upon which all of the dark elves immediately retreated. Of course, that valiant look of Cassio pulling the bowstring to shoot is visually amazing, totally different from that foolish Anya. However, after noticing a certain beast tamer's eyes turn green and salivate at the sight of Cassio, I start to worry for this centaur hero once again. Gold rank primary stage? If he hasn't reached 30 years of age yet, which means that he has barely reached adulthood among the centaurs, it would be quite an incredible feat. However, he is still slightly lacking compared to the dragon beast tamer who is at the gold rank pinnacle, especially given the fellow's unscrupulous means to achieve his goals. The more outstanding you perform, the more danger you are in, you know. I was of the mind to warn the centaur, but along the way, Bei Feng was chatting happily with him, which put me at a loss on how I should approach them. Bei Feng, just looking at his outer appearance, is tall and burly with a quaint face, giving quite a favorable impression. His deep and steady voice is always so slow and gentle. The words that he speaks are interesting and knowledgeable, giving a philosophical feeling through his speech, as though spoken by a matured, wise elder. Alright, it is precisely because he has a decent appearance with a glib tongue, that's why there are so many victims, which makes him a big threat to society. His image as an honest older brother, the appropriate and implicitly kind intent, as well as his honest and sincere laughter complements Cassio's disposition, who seems cold but actually worries for his future. More importantly, Bei Feng went along with the flow of the young centaur and very quickly, after doing an initial probe under Bei Feng's hard work, laughter was added into their conversation. Diana found it hard to watch on and kindly walked forward to warn him. However, being bad with her words, before she could even slip in a sentence, she was instead sent off stomping back, aggravated by Bei Feng. Intelligent life forms are forever so short-sighted. They are used to judging life by their race and outer appearance. Yes, I am a dragon with the bloodline of the black dragon flowing within my veins. But, those who are acquainted with me know that I am someone who passionately loves life and little animals. Yes, I might be ugly, but those who are familiar with me understand that I am gentle too. Alright, his hurt expression seems as though he has just been put through a great grievance, as though Diana is the bad person racially discriminating against him. In the end, under Cassio's annoyed and angry gaze, the good-hearted Diana is unable to speak of his disgusting past actions and could only walk away, shaking her head. Big sister, you are being too nosy. Won't the centaur kid understand it in 2 days or so? But by then, it will already be too late. Pooh. As expected, those who are purer tend to have a wilder imagination. Hearing the words too late, the other people immediately break out in laughter and stare teasingly at the famous golden bow, especially at the horse armor on his lower body. The little brat knows not of the harm of Bei Feng. The next day he will sing of the chrysanthemum. TL, chrysanthemum. There is a phrase in Chinese called exploding the chrysanthemum that means screwing a man's ass. Alright, I have no idea who made that twisted poem, but the comical pronunciation and lyrics make everyone laugh even harder. Facing Diana's "how can you be like this" questioning stare, at least I won't admit that it is my own sudden inspiration. The rather proud Cassio ignores everyone else after joining the band, even pretending not to hear Crow's polite greeting. On the journey, he even called out to other people by just their race, like "Hey, that gnome over there, hey, that fat human," and very quickly ended up offending quite a lot of people. Thus, seeing that Bei Feng has set his sights on him, the rest of the band, other than the kind Diana, have no intentions to expose Bei Feng's intentions and choose to happily watch him make a fool of himself. Back to the main topic, other than the joint attack by the Dark Elves near the exit, the journey was still quite smooth. But then, when we walked onto the surface world, bathed in the familiar yet unfamiliar warmth of sunlight, gazing at the boundless blue sky and the vast endless earth, even I felt agitated. The Roland's sacred sword on my waist slightly resonates in tune with my feelings, as though describing its impatience to head somewhere. The direction it hopes to proceed towards, naturally, is the north of the continent. East Mist communal country, huh? The descendants of the mist. I do want to test his capabilities. If he is unable to meet with my expectations and insult this glorious title. Shaking my head, I throw all excessive thoughts to one side. Looking behind me, I realize that my party companions aren't doing very well all of a sudden. The previously high-spirited Momo sits weakly on the floor with her eyes shut, while the pale-faced Diana half kneels on the floor with her body lowered, muttering words that seem like a prayer from her lips. I won't fall upwards, I won't fall upwards. Walking up to her, I realize that she is actually talking to herself. In that instant, I can't suppress my laughter. This isn't any rare ailment. Even on the surface, After staying too long in the mines, when one stares at the vast, endless sky from that narrow entrance, there would be a feeling as though one will be taken away by the sky, an illusion of falling towards the heavens. This is an instinctive misperception of living beings. Those experienced miners would feel better after a while, but for the dark elves who have stayed in the underground world for their entire lives, it isn't that easy to deal with. They were born in the underground world. They are already used to seeing the dark solid rock walls on top of the clouds and even more used to the first light of dawn being brought by the luminescent algae. When the rock walls which felt right to them have suddenly disappeared, it is just like if the surface human's sunlight and blue sky were to be suddenly taken away from them. Even if they rationally know that they would be fine, but the discomfort they physically feel still cannot be avoided. Based on what I know, this is known as a phobia of vast open spaces and it is a reflex action. It will take at least a couple of months to overcome it, with quite a few who fail to overcome it their entire lives. The Grey Elves, who from the start aren't comfortable with light, are in the worst shape of all. They are sent straight to the carriage so that they can rest. As for Cassio, even though his four hooves are slightly trembling, he still puts on a calm front and tries his best to stand up straight. Yung, Hoyle and the other veterans have been to the surface world innumerable times already. Same goes for the few fellows possessing law jobs, they are already happily doing what they should be doing. As for Clint, it should be his first time on the surface as well. His expression cannot be seen under the thick armor and that bird head helmet. However, looking at how he keeps trying to feel for the grenades on his waist to seek a sense of safety from his explosives, he doesn't seem to be in good condition. What? We are still lacking a person. Alright, I'll admit that I intentionally left him out, yet you all still want to talk about him. That's suicidal. Are you still okay? Why don't you rest in the carriage for a bit? No, it's okay. I'm fine. Looking at how the others are fine, even when his big brother Beifeng sincerely asks for his condition out of concern, how could the stubborn centaur admit defeat in front of everyone else? My brother, let me lean on you a bit, I am feeling a little giddy. The black dragon suddenly sits on the floor and rests on Cassio's abdomen. Cassio is stunned for a moment before realization strikes him. A smile appears on his cold and proud face. Alright, since that's the case, then I will let you lean on me for a bit. Thus, the proud centaur prince lowers all four of his legs and sits down just like a war horse, allowing Beifeng to lean on one side of his abdomen. Gradually, sitting on the floor with someone to lean on, he feels the warmth of his companions in the solid ground. The young centaur prince's wildly beating heart slows down as his phobia of vast open spaces improves. The ice mountain of the cold-faced, but warm-hearted centaur prince finally melts as he smiles gratefully. Thank you, big brother Beifeng. Why are you thanking me? I should be the one thanking you. Hee, big brother, you sure are a good person. You haven't seen the best side of me yet, but there will be more opportunities in the future. Leaning on each other, the dragon and centaur start chatting. Their hands even accidentally make contact before being pulled back hastily. The sight of their love is hard to look at properly. Looking at the fearsome sight unfolding in front of me, I rub my temple and secretly make up my mind to quickly find a secluded corner to bury Beifeng alive, so as to prevent him from further corrupting my eyes. Also, looking at how the others are grinding their teeth or feeling nauseated, the majority of the group are definitely having the same thoughts. If it weren't for the fact that the young ace archer wasn't weak, we might have already taken action. Lanesford isn't that far away from the exit. We managed to reach our destination before sunset. However, just as we approach the city gates, we meet with new trouble. That guy over there, remove your helmet for inspection. Also, whose jerkin slave is that? Will he bite? Has he been immunized? At that instant, hearing that his big brother is treated like an animal, the reckless Cassio reaches for his bow, intending to shoot the guards in his usual fashion. I rush to his side to stop him. I don't want to be a fugitive immediately after reaching the surface. Actually, what the guard had said also makes sense. After seeing the dragon, if it weren't for the presence of holy knights in our band, he probably would have long called for people to surround us and put us down. The dragons, being an artificial creation, are unique. They are different from the dragon descendants who have mixed blood. Although they have their own tribe and culture, they are indeed an unnatural creation. During the chaotic ancient times, The 7-colored evil dragon goddess Tiamat and an evil necromancer created them to serve the evil, sided towards chaos. Color dragons, red dragon, black dragon, blue dragons etc., and Beifeng himself is a draken possessing the bloodline of black dragons. On the other hand, the comparatively kinder metal dragons, the gold dragon and silver dragon who are sided towards order, don't have the slightest goodwill towards these drakens. Due to the natural restraints of their bloodline, a large portion of drakens still act as the servants of the evil giant dragons, such as the new Dragon Empress. There are countless draken servants in the Dragon City which Xiaohong is currently building. This is also why Bai Feng could use those words to gain Cassio's recognition earlier on. That is because in a lot of places, even if they are blessed with talent and are strong individually, due to them being cursed to live the life of servants, drakens are being discriminated against. Of course, in the chaotic underground world, even black dragons and red dragons die easily from battle, thus it is easy for their servants and their following descendants to achieve freedom. The underground world is probably the place where most of the free drakens are. Due to this, in the eyes of humans, the black-skinned drakens are equal to the fangs and claws of the evil giant dragons. However, there is a holy knight in the band, which leads them to deduce that this draken is the slave of a certain mage or a spoil of war. I am the slave of this Lord Centaur. Thanks, little brother. It's fine, I have seen a lot of worldly people like him, don't stoop down to his level. Bai Feng pulls the rash Cassio and whispers in his ear. Also, in order not to put the other party in an awkward situation, Bai Feng even took the initiative to claim that he is Cassio's slave. At that moment, Cassio somehow felt touched. When the eyes of the two men meet, electricity shoots in all directions. All of their emotions are conveyed through the exchange of gazes. There is no need for excessive words. In the eyes of the onlooker, the scene becomes one that cannot be looked at again. Momo wants to puke. Momo is really puking. At this moment, I am very seriously considering whether it is plausible for me to dump the two, leave them to survive on their own and find another archer for our band. Alright, when the problem on that side is finally settled, another problem occurs on the other side. Clint insists on not taking off his helmet. Of course, the guards are unwilling to give passage to us if it's like that. Their conflict attracts the presence of even more guards. When these guards look at us with wary eyes and the cannons on the city wall slowly move towards us, I knew that this cannot carry on. Detect evil. Upon using this one circle divine art, after the holy light has descended, all evildoers, or should I say those possessing the power of chaos, will be dyed a shade of red. Immediately, the black-skinned draken shines bright red while the others give out a dim white light. This mighty soldier here, look at the light shrouding his body. He is also a kind order citizen, it's just that my brother was scarred by high temperatures and looks awful beneath the armor. He has been afraid of scaring others, that's why he doesn't dare to reveal himself. On the surface, I was grabbing onto the hand of the sentry, explaining to him. However, with a shake of my wrist, a small coin pouch slides into the sleeves of the other party. Help us, on Bana's, Goddess of Wealth, account. It isn't the first time this young sentry with a pockmarked face was bribed. Looking left and right, after confirming that no one was paying attention, he shakes his sleeves and the sound of jingling metal could he heard within. Furthermore, the pouch wasn't light as well. Thus, he nods his head in satisfaction. Go in. Don't stir up trouble. After our carriages enter the city, Harlois's voice sounds by my ear. That pouch didn't seem light, how much did you spend? This isn't how you do things. Guess. I guess that it is full of bronze coins. Or at most, 30 bronze coins. But to the guard, it probably isn't a small sum. 5 gold coins. How is that possible? A stingy fellow like you would actually be willing to make a loss. Hee hee, I earned quite a bit from this expedition, so what does that little money count? No. This isn't a problem of money. It is about that your personality which causes you to definitely never make a loss. 5 gold coins? Are they gold coins made from flower elves that will disappear after a night? That toy is 100 times more valuable than normal gold coins. In order not to allow the other party win, wouldn't I be making a huge loss instead? No, based on my understanding of you, as long as you're happy, in order to bring unhappiness to others, you are willing to pay as much as it is required. Hey, stop keeping me in suspense, your teacher, Me, is quite curious. Then continue being curious. While being surprised by how deeply this stupid cat understands me, I do not intend to reveal the answer to this riddle. Based on my understanding of her, the one known as the Omniscient One, this magic cat's pursuit of knowledge is boundless. The moment curiosity starts to strike her, she would definitely pursue the case all the way to the end. Otherwise, she would be unable to sleep at night. If so, I could make use of this opportunity to fulfill my goals. Hey, don't be like this, otherwise I will spend the whole night thinking about it. How about I promise to teach you ice magic, an ice magic that even a magic idiot like you can use. You should be able to say it now, right? As expected. She immediately gives in. My goal has been fulfilled. Right now, I am still too weak. It is good even if I grow stronger just by a bit. Personally, I am a master necromancer, and in my current state, I can use necromancy and ice magic. However, if I were to be labeled a necromancer and be reduced to a fugitive, then my identity would have to be abandoned. Thus, although it belongs to the Chaos faction, the elemental magic that human mages would train in became the only option. My knowledge of ice magic is still stuck at the stage of gathering my magic power and blasting it. With a master mage adept in all categories by my side, naturally, I would consult her. Tui, you want me to teach you, an unfilial disciple, to be killed once again? Dream on. Alright, if I were to use the pet contract to force her, she would definitely teach me. However, if she were to purposely leave out a part, that would be more than sufficient for me to get destroyed during crucial periods. However, I am not impatient at all. She might understand me, but I also understand her. Actually, as long as you choose the correct means, this Queen of Banshees is actually quite easy to deal with. I only have to patiently wait for an opportunity to hook the curious heart of the other party. As expected, even before a week has passed after her arrogant words, she was hooked. Looking at the little cat who scratches my neck with all of her strength but was unable to even break the defense of Titan body, I laughed. Alright, I will unveil the riddle. It is indeed 5 gold coins. Previously, wasn't the 2 iron longswords worth 10 gold coins, broken during my duel with Momo? Thus, I placed the broken fragments in the bag. I guess that is an effective use of useless objects. However, it was indeed worth 5 gold coins, and now, it is still worth 5 gold coins. The workmanship of the longsword is inferior, so the crafting fee can be neglected altogether. The price of the material and the cost of the sword is equal. However, I am not so bored as to reforge another iron sword. Impossible. When did you prepare it? I have long prepared it while on the road. No matter how many years it has been, as long as my performance is up to standard, this trick has really never failed before. Yes, I have long known that problems will occur during our entry into the city. That bag of broken shards was long prepared while I was still on the road. Even the lines used for the bribery and the action of handing over the money was rehearsed. You bastard! You actually dare to trick me! Lad, just you wait. A sudden yell that echoes from the back makes me shake my head. Sigh, even this line has yet to change. You really lack creativity. Aren't you afraid of him bringing his friends to stir trouble against you? It is bad enough that a footman like him tries to eat a bribe, it would be really bizarre if he can get his colleagues to settle his private grudge. If he slanders you by saying that you are a spy, wouldn't he be able to get helpers? That's what those night novels often write. It is a classical development. I looked sympathetically at Harl Oys. Those conventional night novel indeed will damage one's brain after reading too much of it. With her intelligence, she still calls herself the Omniscient One. Then, he would have to explain why he let the spies into the city. Besides, if it is proven that we aren't spies after an examination, then it would mean that he is reporting false military intelligence to settle his private grudges. If so, that footman would lose his head. As expected of my disciple, indeed a sly old fox. Thanks for your praise, but please call it experience. The teacher and apprentice look at each other, feeling a sense of connection with one another. Behind, Momo, who was looking at this sight, suddenly pulls Diana's sleeves. You look at that Roland, the way he looks at that cat is really weird. It is really as though he treats it like a human. Could it be that he is a brethren of Bai Feng? That's why he didn't touch Big Sister the other night? Ever since Diana shows that she is still a virgin due to Momo annoying her, Momo has been making malicious inferences about Roland. Shut up. Don't talk about that night. After remembering the bizarre gazes that everyone looked at her with after that day, Diana sighs helplessly. Recently, my luck seems to be quite poor. It is as though I have offended a god of misfortune. Not long after, her complaints reached my ear. Instantly, I grinned happily. You didn't offend the god of misfortune. The one you offended is the aura of plague. Haha, looks like I found another one with even lower luck than me. Nice to meet you, lightning rod number 3, let's get along well. Chapter 76, The Night Princess Using the Light from the Oil Lamp. I read a book on the bed as I wait for the first ray of sunlight to slowly creep into the room. The sunlight gradually warms my body and soul. Such an ordinary thing that people experience in their daily lives, and currently one of my greatest pleasures to enjoy. I didn't manage to get much in from the reading, as my mind was wandering all over the place. The mind is always the clearest during daybreak and all kinds of evil schemes come popping up, one after another. Perhaps, this is an instinctual reaction of life towards light. We arrived at Lane's stronghold almost half a month ago, and Yinggu's merchant party had long left. They are to head for All-End Empire to attend the new Emperor Darso's inauguration ceremony. The Roland robot will serve as a congratulatory gift to him. The All-End royalty and nobles are known to be extravagant and fervently pursue rare artifacts. This kind of interesting novelty, a giant robot, is definitely one of a kind on the surface. Through Yinggu's calculations, this long journey to present the gift is definitely an investment that will bring lots of benefits. A large part of the party has left, but I had no intentions of leaving. Every day, I focus only on training my swordsmanship, reading books, roam the streets, chat with strangers and enjoy my tea, as carefree as retired personnel. Could it be that this fellow really came to the human world for a vacation? Others look at my actions with incomprehension, but in actuality, I have already done a lot of things. For example, gathering information and updating my knowledge on the situation, learning changes in the different countries on the main continent and adapting my future plans to these changes. I must say that due to the underground tunnel being too long and dangerous, not to mention that the underground world is incomparably chaotic, by the time news of the surface reaches the underground, it would long be history. Unless it is the scouts bringing back important information, normal information would have a minimum gap of half a year, and mistakes in the information cannot be avoided as well. Furthermore, most of the dwellers of the underground world don't even have enough time to handle their own life, so there is no way they would have the spare time to worry about the surface, which is thousands of miles away. Even the gossips take a long time to spread around. Thus, the reports that Luang Mountain City obtains on each country are mostly derived from the idle chatter of the merchants moving to and fro between the two worlds. Most of the news they have are above 30 years old. Inaccurate information will only lead to inaccurate judgment. If we don't even understand the personality and background of the leaders of each country, then how can we make the proper preparations accordingly? There is a need to work on this aspect. While I put it in an elegant and intelligent manner, but it really only involves looking at newspapers and browsing through books. Due to the existence of the God of Knowledge, the outcontinent's printing industry is rather advanced. Similar to Luang Mountain City's daily newspaper, the Ming United Kingdom also has its own news industry. Although the newspapers that the capital, Kasia City, sends to this stronghold are often 3 months old without much variety to them, it is much more useful than the useless intelligence which are decades old. Even so, the old newspapers and magazines that I finished in half a month are sufficient to fill up 3 to 4 rooms. The evil underground world is starting to make a move. The legendary Underground Alliance finally appears. Our wise King Arthur II is gathering troops to prepare for a long war. Hey, even Molly's name is spelled wrongly. A long time has already passed since the Underground Alliance was changed entirely. The intelligence is equally old and outdated. However, to be able to predict the underground world's intention to attack the surface 10 years in advance and start preparation for a long war, it seems that Arthur II, who is reputed as a sage king by the future generations, is still rather capable. Gathering intelligence is just a small part of my daily schedule. There are still a lot of seemingly unimportant matters but in actuality, are absolutely essential to deal with. For example, my background and my way of speaking. In order to fully integrate into the human society, I must first settle these two problems. The way ancient people speak and modern people speak are completely different. Even the commonly used words are extremely different in terms of tone and pronunciation depending on the area. This might seem like a small matter, but it is often a crucial gap which is exploited to find out one's true identity. To me, learning how to imitate an accent isn't a problem. What I find difficult is deleting those archaic words that have long disappeared from history. If a 300-year-old archaic phrase and intonation were to suddenly come out of my mouth, it would be a huge problem. To deal with this problem, I need to practice through chatting with people and reading the newspaper. I can only test one word after another. It is a huge waste of time and effort, but it is already bearing fruit. As for my background, I have already prepared it long ago. Under my arrangements, a fallen noble family from the Mist Country has been living in this city for more than 2 decades. Their ancestors once helped the previous king to ascend to the throne, thus receiving the title of a knight, bringing the family to prosperity. In the current generation, they might have lost their aristocratic title and are barely maintaining their lifestyle through a few plots of farmland, but they can still be considered as members of nobility. The family has a son afflicted with leprosy who is named Rollo. He was sent to the monastery to live a life away from the world. He would occasionally return, but with bandages and black cloth wrapped all over his body for fear of afflicting others with his illness, leaving his appearance an enigma. Just 4 years ago, perhaps his sincere prayers were heard by the heavens, and so the God of Light performed a miracle and healed the pitiful young man. He was granted the identity of a holy knight, and the young man, inconceivably, risked his life to head to the underground world alone. In the eyes of most of the nobles in the city, it is just another story that the Holy Church came up with to spread its influence. The man isn't coming back, so no one would be able to verify the story anyway. However, what surprised everyone was that there was a continuation to the story. The population felt regretful for this young man who was miraculously healed, yet in a moment of recklessness, charged headlong to his death. However, he actually managed to return half a month later. Furthermore, he brought quite a lump of fortune back with him. The nickname of that man is Rollo, whereas his real name is Roland. Currently, under the intentional efforts of a certain someone, that legendary story has started to spread around the city. Alright, at this point, everyone should have guessed that the certain someone is me. Yes, this 19-year-old Rollo doesn't actually exist, and that family is a group of people that I sent out 20 years ago. All real characters who are involved with this identity have long settled down in Luhuang Mountain City. In order to make these two identities more believable, I personally played the role of Rollo the few times he came into contact with his neighbors. Furthermore, I even intentionally left behind some personal quirks, such as a weird intonation while speaking and a bizarre sitting posture. Preparing 20 years ahead just for a nobility status and a clean background seems excessive? No, in my perspective, I feel that I have not yet done enough. It is frustrating, but in this world, the humans who govern the world are probably the most xenophobic of all the races. If one wants to do well in the human society or even rise to the social status of a high noble who has a say in governance, it is necessary for that noble status to have been passed down for at least 3 generations. Furthermore, if you are seen as a spy by another race, all your efforts will have gone down the drain. Of course, there are many blank holes in the story I came up with. If someone were to investigate my background, there would be many suspicious points to it. However, it would be more trustworthy to have an identity that is suspicious than an entirely blank slate. An unknown background could be a weakness which others could attack. If there are only suspicions, others would have to retrieve evidence to prove that my identity is a fake. That would be difficult. Recently, I have been strolling the streets almost every day and greeting the uncle and auntie next door, as well as the store vendors. I do this all while showcasing those weird quirks of mine. This is to let the two identities overlap and raise the credibility of my fake identity. However, due to certain reasons and my pathetic luck, I seem to have overdone it. Pooh, Roland, I hear that you're into old grannies? Nonsense. Is there such a nonsensical interest? It's just that the darned daily mission required me to help old grannies across the road, for 10 times. However, there isn't the so-called pedestrian walkway and the number of horse carriages are even fewer. In the end, After waiting for an entire afternoon, I only managed to find 3 old grannies to fulfill the requirement. I even had to beg them to let me help them across the road. I was caught looking around for old grannies with a light in my eyes and to fawn over them, resulting in such an absurd nickname. No, the one I heard is the Wild Dog Terminator. Rubbish. Dogs are the humans' best friends. I really liked the mission to bathe the wild dogs, it's just that the dogs hated it. After experiencing the sharp teeth and honed claws a few times, it was fortunate that I was able to cast Holy Light, otherwise, I would be unable to face anyone the next day. Ah, I heard that you followed a beautiful lady all around with bad intentions, and in the end, you got arrested on the spot? Bullshit. My objective was only to strike evil and clear away those gangsters. But it is a pity that I failed to catch a single gangster that day. As expected, is it because my Holy Knight's concealment skill isn't up to par? As for getting arrested, I am a Holy Knight, so how is it possible for me to get arrested? It took me some time to persuade the police. Other than allowing me to deeply understand that the system is still as darned as always, the outcome of these missions also made me comprehend that doing good deeds are harder compared to performing evil acts. It made that legendary Roland and the fortunate lad Roland, turn into overly enthusiastic and kind Roland and then into the Roland next door with a screw loose, and finally it is a pity, the lad is young but his brain has been burnt by the Holy Light. It's okay. This way, the others would have a more striking impression of me. Being a little more foolish suits the background of me rushing hot-headed into the underground world to die. It is a good thing. A good thing. This is me deceiving myself in tears and blood. But sometimes, when misfortune comes one after another and one's reputation keeps crumbling, there is a limit to deceiving oneself. A good thing. Your head. Previously, the cute little sister from the flower shop opposite here used to look at me with adoration. But now it's turned into sympathy, as though looking at a lackwit. There are even people behind me shouting, "Don't give up on hope, don't give up on treatment." It took just 1 week for my entire image to be destroyed. If this goes on, the identity of Lich Roland with a screw loose will turn into Holy Knight Roland whose brain got burnt by Holy Light. But in order to get stronger as soon as possible, the darned daily missions that are growing increasingly worse must be done. I am starting to miss that evil system that ranks others. These days, doing good deeds is really much tougher than scheming evil acts. Helping an old granny across the road causes me to be suspected of wanting to rob the elderly. Helping others carry their luggage causes me to be suspected of theft. Voluntarily sweeping the streets, and yet I am treated like a lunatic. Helping to bathe the dog and shave its hair, yet others think I intended to make a dog hot pot. Can humans have a little bit more trust in each other? System, you have won. Can you take pity on my fallen reputation and image and let me off the hook? Right now, even Diana, that silly older sister, looks at me weirdly. Seeing how I am when I was scammed by the system, she wasn't as surprised as before, and instead, she nods her head as though it were natural, seemingly saying that Roland should be like that. As expected, the dignified Judge Woomians is a fake persona. Today, while flipping halfway through the news, I was attracted by an article from 3 months ago. The powerful All-Land Empire's new emperor is about to ascend to the throne. 42 subordinate states including Bub Communal Country, East Mist Communal Country and Carslow Kingdom will be sending members of their royalty to give their blessings. Experts have predicted that during the ceremony, they will offer their flags to proclaim their loyalty and trust. Caca. A crisp sound and the newspaper is torn into two. Subordinate state? My blood pressure suddenly rises up. I can no longer see the remaining words. An inexplicable rage and feeling of wrongness fuels the flames in my heart, and yet, I cannot find an outlet to vent it. I knew that the East Mist Communal Country hasn't been that powerful and independent a country for the last 1,000 years. I also understood that it is common practice for smaller states to proclaim their loyalty to larger states. But the moment I think about the Mist War flag, which represents the spirit of unyielding and protection, is about to be placed below the royal flag of a certain empire, the feeling of oppression makes me so angry that I could kill someone. Those darned unfilial descendants, useless. To actually reach such a state that they have to swear loyalty to other countries. You have soiled the 1,000 years of pride and honor of the Mist bloodline. Alright, even though I know that my resentment isn't rational, but the inexplicable flame still causes me to rage within the room. It takes a long moment before I calm down. I sigh helplessly. I can't really blame them for it. I know that there are some things that can't be blamed on the future generations. It is already quite a great feat for them to rebuild our homeland. If I must blame, I can only blame our generation which brought our country to its knees. Thus, after calming down, I gaze once again at the newspaper I had torn up and start stitching it back together. Although it is very infuriating, this intelligence is still very crucial, so there is a need for me to study it carefully. The new Emperor Darsos, isn't that the king of winter wolves in history? Although he is that unfortunate fellow who turned gay for Victoria, his military achievements are still quite striking in history, so he isn't someone to be underestimated. Then, when I think about Victoria and the tragic ending of Darsos, somehow my spirits are lifted. A twisted idea full of bad intentions pops up once again. For an emperor of such a great empire, it might be because he's had enough of luxurious flesh, and that's why he ended up so infatuated with a rare, androgynous beauty like Victoria. And while Victoria isn't here anymore, Crows still is, and she's an extreme beauty that sides more towards the androgynous side. If so, why don't I try to twist his sexual orientation, make him leave behind another famous line in history? Alright, even though I just said it teasingly to vent my frustration at the mist royalty for being forced to bow their heads, Crows, who was spreading her faith in the plaza, suddenly feels a cold chill down her spine and shivers, as though misfortune is about to strike her. After which, I flip to the last page of the newspaper, where there are drawings and a short summary on the representatives that the different subordinate states are sending to attend the inauguration ceremony. East Mist Communal Country, here it is. A princess? Ren.kin.mist. Kaka. The newspaper that took me much effort to stitch back together is completely destroyed. This time, it wasn't because of rage but rather, I was completely surprised at this sight in front of me. On the corner of the newspaper, there is a vivid drawing of a valiant female knight dressed in silver armor, waving to the crowds with a warm smile on her face. Knight Princess Ren, the final descendant of the mist, is well trusted by her people. A person who is falsely making use of the mist name as one of its descendants? All of these assumptions can be dumped down the gutter. Looking at the face of the valiant female knight, I have to admit it even if I don't want to. Roland, look at this. This Lord Princess really looks like you and Rolo. Could you all be from the same family? Don't even try to deny it, this time there is even evidence here. Quick, let Momo meet the cute little Rolo. Momo rushes in and waving in her hand is the exact same newspaper which I was holding. That knight princess named Ren actually had a face that is 90% similar to mine. If it weren't for that bit of femininity between her eyebrows, instead of masculinity, as well as her sharper face and her slightly thinner eyebrows, we would be identical. Staring fixedly at the drawing of the young lady, I secretly make up my mind. Looks like we must first head to the capital of all land, Kajursi City. The full name of the Ming United Kingdoms is Mingting United Kingdom, which literally translates to the Ming Court United Kingdom. Think of those historical Chinese dramas where the king sits on the throne, while the other officials report daily matters to him. Somehow, it sounds awkward, so I shortened it to Ming United Kingdom, which also sounds weird. Androgynous beauty, greater than. Think of a beauty with traits of both male and female. For example, Japanese has a category of man called Bishounen. Although Crows is a female now, she has features of guys as well. Chapter 77, Ice Ren.kin.mist, 14 years old. When her father, Kashgar.mist, died in battle, she became the sole successor of the Mist bloodline and is deeply trusted by her people and her army. The history of this Night Princess is quite similar to what we previously underwent. A year ago, there were conflicts on the border and the Beastmen army suddenly invaded. The previous king fell in battle and this Night Princess was sent straight to the battlefield at the last moment. Her army charged for 1,000 miles, sweeping the Beastmen army back to their own land. However, in that battle, there were no records of her personally appearing on the battlefield, so her fighting prowess and job are still unknown. However, regardless of whether it's internally in the country or beyond, there are rumors spreading that compare her with the legendary twins, Roland and Carwins. 300 years ago, the Holy Knight Roland from the legends grew swiftly in war, reaching bronze by the age of 12, silver by 13 and gold by 14. Before his demise, it is said that the god of holy light seemed to have brought about a miracle which allowed him to step into the realm of legends, giving him the power to slaughter countless enemies. However, it is a pity that he was too young and eventually died in the war. Even if he was a human with the greatest potential, this kind of growth rate was still unfathomable. If he were to carry on growing at such a speed, wouldn't it mean that he would have become a semi-god by the time he reached 20? Even more so, due to the speed of his progress being too outrageous, there were even secret rumors that his resentment pierced through the heavens, such that the god of holy light couldn't even stand looking at it. Thus, he granted him the power to overcome his limits. Furthermore, with this rumor as the basis, there was even a bishop who proposed to canonize Roland, giving him the posthumous title of Saint Roland. However, the action of exposing their own dark history was equivalent to slapping the face of the entire Holy Church and would never be passed. Alright, it sounds so legendary, but the truth is that in a bid to level up, a certain transcender grinded his level up by killing mobs with a frenzy, hoping that he could reverse the situation in the end. However, he was unable to avoid the tragedies that fate had in store for him. Also, if Roland is a growth type prodigy, then Carwin's would be the incredible type prodigy. Being both a mage and a warrior, he reached gold rank for both fields early on in his life. By the age of 12, he was already a double legend, which resulted in the bloodshed of Bane. If Roland is the Holy Church's 1 in 300 years prodigy, then Carwin's would be the entire continent's 1 in 1,000 years prodigy. TL, Bloodshed of Bane, referred to chapter 61. I am the only one that knows Carwin's had long touched the boundaries of the saint rank. From the start, it wasn't that he simultaneously studied both magic and martial arts and then broke through them both. Rather, after reaching the legend rank in magic, he became bored, so he went to learn martial arts and eventually reached the legend rank for it as well. This kind of growth rate is inhumane, but if the person in question isn't human from the start, it could be understandable. Through my investigations in my later lives, I managed to find out the truth. Carwin's is a demonic offspring. Or rather, although he is a human, he is the person chosen by the Chaos Abyss, so it isn't possible for him to be normal. It can be said that the demon invasion back then was quite suspicious. Their primary objective must have been to get the Chaos Abyss favored one to return. Also, in another one of my adventures, I accidentally discovered that there were many dark secrets behind that incident. A certain retarded seer predicted that in the country of the far north, of a twin born, one will become the prince of the Chaos Abyss. In order to prevent that kind of fate from happening, a bunch of idiots who thought of themselves as the protectors of the world first pressured the upper echelons of the Holy Church and then forced the Mist royalty to hand over their elder son to the Holy Church to serve as a hostage. They intended to resist fate by converting one of them into a holy knight and getting rid of the other. On many occasions, they sent assassins to get rid of the younger son. However, this turned into an opportunity for the younger son's powers to grow and mature. I'll admit it, the prophecy wasn't wrong. With the system by my side, if I were to go all out and kill people to level up, I would definitely be even more demonic than Carwin's. Furthermore, in the history, it is indeed Roland who turns into the Prince of Chaos Abyss. If so, it isn't wrong to say that either one of the two princes could turn out to be the demonic offspring. However, sometimes I would ponder that if the ridiculous prophecy didn't exist, we wouldn't be forced into such a state. Was the prophecy absolute in predicting those future events, or was it that the prophecy, through the butterfly effect, resulted in it turning into reality? Probably no one can say for sure. If we were to really study it, it would be a paradox of whether the chicken came first or the egg came first. It is unsolvable, and thinking about it is pointless on its own. On the other hand, flies won't be attracted to eggs that aren't cracked. Even without schemers fanning the flames from the back, given the situation back then, under the temptation of profits, war will still be triggered in the end. Being alone, we would not have been able to withstand the invasion of the Allied forces, so the ending would still probably be the same. Alright, back to the main topic at hand, the princes of the fallen country, one of whom was a tragic hero who died for his country, while the other was an anti-hero who sacrificed everything just to seek vengeance for his lost country. Even if this twisted history isn't accepted by most of the masses, but even now, The twin princes remain the pride of the Mist Country. For this princess to be compared to the legendary twin stars from 300 years ago, it is enough to show how loved she is by her people. However, there was something else I noticed. The way Princess Rin dressed up in the painting, and even her hairstyle was one imitating that of the Roland back then. In fact, the silver female plate mail that she wore is a feminine version of my thorn battle armor from before. Also, that seemingly happy smile is a derivation of the Holy Knight's standard smile. If it isn't that she worships those heroic characters from 300 years ago, then the greatest possibility is that she is intentionally trying to imitate the heroic characters from legend. It might be due to overwhelming circumstances that are out of her control, that has led the princess to resort to this kind of tactics to gather the support of the people. This isn't a good omen. Perhaps all this while, I have been subconsciously trying to avoid the new owners of that land, and that is why I have been either trying to treat them as fakes or with apathy. Even when I started to gather and organize intelligence from each country, I didn't start from the East Mist communal country. Now that the facts are thrown at my face, if I were to avoid them any further, I would really be a tortoise hiding in its shell. This isn't my style of doing things. Stepping into the bathroom alone, I soaked myself in the bathtub. Taking off my time distortion ring, I carefully set the number from 20 to 12 before putting it back on, and then, as expected, still exactly the same. When my age regresses to the point before puberty, the unique traits that each gender possesses isn't that apparent on me. The reflection in the mirror hanging on the wall, which looks almost exactly the same as the face on the drawing, crushes the final sliver of hope that it might just be a coincidence. Could it be that I really drank too much back then and got into trouble? But that shouldn't be possible. Back then, the Holy Night Order was full of different kinds of prohibition. Before I reached the age of 12, I led a life like a monk and Bane, and after turning 12, I spent my days fighting in wars. So, how could I possibly have the time to make such a mistake? What can be more incomprehensible than a great-great-great-granddaughter suddenly appearing? However, the only thing that was reassuring was that although they have advertised themselves as descendants of Roland, whether they really are Rolands or Carwins is still a mystery. After all, when Carwins led the demon army to cleanse away those who destroyed our homeland, he made many enemies and much resentment was directed towards him. Under that kind of situation, even if she really is Carwins' descendant, she'd probably try to avoid admitting it. So, it is national that she would raise the flag of Roland. That darn little brother. I still have to carry the blame for you, even at a time like this. Remembering back then, as twins, we were totally identical. Even though I was obviously much better at talking, Carwins was always much more popular than me. Not to mention, he wasn't limited by the many troublesome prohibitions of the Holy Knights. At a young age, he was good at acting innocent to bypass those big sisters' defenses. Not just the maids in court, there were even quite a few daughters of nobles that had fallen into his hands. He often bragged about this to his big brother. Even though I felt the urge to grind my teeth in anger, I still had to maintain my image as a member of royalty and as a holy knight. I had to be gentlemanly and be careful of my reputation and people's perception of me. In the end, at the point of my death, I was still a virgin. But now, there are a bunch of people claiming to be my descendants, making me feel really wronged. Alright, I admit that this is the envy and hatred of a 300-year-old great archmage, well known among the commoners. A 30-year-old male virgin will naturally turn into a wizard. If so, 300 years should be long enough to create a wizard of forbidden spells or archmage, right? But when I think about the fact that I might have a great-great-great-granddaughter whose physical age is older than me, the exact relationship isn't clear at this point. I somehow feel my head start to hurt. The door isn't locked? Oh, I'm sorry. Suddenly, the door opens. That mad dog abruptly walks straight into my bathroom. After looking at the me who was soaking in the tub, she immediately turns around to walk out. Oh, no, she didn't walk out. She went to lock the door. What does she want to do? I knew that something was wrong. That is magic that changes one physique, right? So, which one is your true age and name? Rollo? Roland? I'm guessing that it is Rollo, otherwise, you would have already taken advantage of our big sister. You also wouldn't be so mad when I talked about being sexually impotent and being underdeveloped. I'm sorry, seems like I accidentally hit your sore spot. Next time, Momo will be more sensitive. Although what you said sounds nice, but what exactly do you intend to do? Why are you closing in on me? Why are you stepping into the bathtub? What is with that saliva drooling down your mouth? Let Momo hug you a bit, just a bit. Momo won't do anything, I promise. Wipe away your saliva first before saying those words. Also, that depraved laughter, should I say, as expected of dark elves? What exactly does that bizarre action of you twirling your fingers mean? What do you intend to do? Be good, little darling. It will hurt just a bit. The mad dog has already turned into the incarnation of lust. I, who was dumbfounded, had already been forced into a corner. Don't even think about it. Dark-skinned elves. Don't you touch my man. Momo, what are you doing? Just a second before Diana shatters the doorknob and enters, a burst of light suddenly shoots out from the ring on my right hand and strikes squarely on Momo. Under the rage of the demon Marquis, she is immediately sent flying. I'm sorry, Roland. The emergency rescue sequence has been activated. The energy in the ring has been exhausted. I'm afraid that we won't be able to communicate with each other for 3 days. I really didn't set the presence of water as the activation sequence. As for bathroom play and bathroom peeping, I am not interested in it at all. Alright, Elisa. Even if you act cute at a time like this, I won't find you cute. I'm sorry, my lord. I will talk to her. Fine, you have already rushed in. Also, can you stop looking at me so calmly? Even if I am an undeveloped boy, I still have human rights. The grey elf who came rushing in heaves up her colleague while lowering her head in apology. However, her action of covering the mocking smile hanging on her mouth after sneaking a glance at me really makes one feel infuriated. Alright, after the 2 grey elves leave, the bathroom becomes peaceful once more. However, I solemnly get out from the bath. The first thing I do is remove Elisa's ring and place it below my clothes. Next, I readjust the time distortion ring and wear it once more. Lastly, I retrieve the spare sword among my items and place it by the bathtub before continuing on with my bath. 5 minutes later. The door is spoiled. Is someone inside? Oh, a man's clothes. Then, since the tub is big enough, let's all just bathe together. We can wash together and even scrub each other's backs. Big brother, your soap dropped. Let me pick it up for you. This time, the ones who appear are the duo brothers that I've been finding harder and harder to look at. Bei Feng and Cassio. I've had enough of perverts. Eat my sin-splitting strike. However, due to the vast difference in power, Bei Feng was able to successfully catch my sword barehanded. Even so, I thought that preparing the sword is a correct decision. The mistake was with this man's name. With a name like Absolute Gentleman Alliance, can I really still expect there to be any normal people in its midst? You think that you're a normal person just because you said that? Gentlemen and perverts, they all attract one another. Suddenly, from the tub, a wet little cat jumps out. After shaking off the water on her body, she struts past me and walks out of the bathroom. Harl Ois, you were there too. Slimes have to rehydrate themselves frequently. I got in even earlier than you. Seriously, even though you are so old, to still be so calculative with a little cat. Right, your body in your younger form is not bad, quite cute. Do you want to consider joining my harem? Although I don't accept males, for such a cutie, I guess I can make do with a male. Harl Ois, eat my holy light strike. Dash dash dash. The pitch black night doesn't mean the end of a day. In the end, the accident during the day turns into a farce that entangles everyone within it. Feeling tired and sore all around, I wanted to take a bath to rejuvenate myself. However, remembering that the bath is the start of everything today, in the end, I could only lie helplessly on my bed. Unexpectedly, the cat transmogrified Harlois also jumps into the room through the windows. Hey! It is time for lessons. You probably don't want news about a holy night learning elemental magic to spread. It would be best for you to cut down on the freak titles. She might be dangerous and unreliable, but valuing promises and the inheritance of knowledge has always been one of the few good points of Harl Ois. Remembering the ice magic lessons that she promised me, my excitement suddenly surges. During my second life, I had already learned ice magic from Harl Ois. However, Harl Ois wasn't that easy to talk to back then, so it's hard to tell how much of the knowledge she imparted me was real. On the other hand, she still kept criticizing me, calling me dumb, and that's why I wasn't able to truly learn it well. But half an hour later, I said that you're a pig and you really are acting like one. There is really no way to teach such a dumb disciple. What I want is for you to feel the breathing of the elements, not for you to control them. Communication. You get it? Communication. Not ordering them, threatening them. With you screwing around like that, let's not mention semi-god. How the hell did you even become a legend mage? Of course it's through cheating via the system. Alright, it is enough to just think about this in my mind, there isn't a need for me to say the words out loud. However, it seems that even if Harlois were to properly teach me back then, the result would still be the same. I really have no idea how you taught Elisa. She has already found her own path for her ice magic and her potential is limitless. As for you, your understanding of magic is still stuck at the level of an apprentice. I only threw the book about incantation and my study notes to her, telling her to consult Margaret if there's anything she's unsure of. That's all. The cat sighed helplessly. Then, in a sudden distortion of space, she warped into the form of a human. Due to me leveling up, her transmogrification abilities are getting stronger as well. The golden-haired young girl appears once again, but, whoa, how cute. Looking at the 10 centimeters tall, tiny doll-like figure acting like a teacher, I immediately burst into laughter. The intent for vengeance is clear within the laughter. Harlois sighs helplessly. Are you learning or not? If you're not interested, I'm going to go sleep. If you were a little bit more capable, would I transform into a figure so small? The magic pet's abilities are directly correlated with its owners. As I am still extremely weak now, she is still far from being able to transmogrify into a human. Elemental magic originates from the ancient elemental gods. The elemental gods and elements have their own temper. Each type of elemental magic has their own nature. As your understanding of ice magic is still stuck on the surface level, it is natural that you are unable to progress any further than that. What do you think the nature of ice is? Why did you choose to study ice magic back then? The nature of ice? Isn't it caused by low temperatures? Why is that hard to understand? Why did I choose ice from the start? It's all because I was born in a country of snow, making the cruelty of the frigid winter etch deep into my mind, thus making me feel that the potential of ice magic is limitless. Actually, every top-tier elemental mage has their own understanding of elements. The reason why I didn't teach you before this is not because I am keeping the knowledge to myself. Rather, I hoped that you could discover it yourself. But, seeing how even after a few centuries, you are still stuck at this level, I know that given your talent in magic, it would be a few millenniums before you really comprehend. I will just talk about my own understanding of it then. Her small hands wave slightly and an extremely small-scale fire eagle soars around the room. Harlois points and a white cloud floats over to it. I thought that the fire eagle would explode due to the collision of fire and ice, but what surprises me is that the fire eagle only turns wide and slows down. This totally collides with the common knowledge of what happens when fire and ice come together. Suddenly, I seem to comprehend a little on why Lisa is able to simultaneously control both ice and fire. Based on my own understanding, ice isn't something that exists in reality. She is a kind of state and tendency that is able to slow down all matters or even stop them entirely. Hearing these words, I suddenly feel a surge of respect for Harlois. Temperature is a kind of energy and lowering the temperature will reduce the activity of matter. This concept of physics is nothing for a transcender. But for a local mage to be able to deduce this from elemental magic, it would require the accumulation of countless theories and experiments. This proves that Harlois' talent for magic creation is pretty high and she is indeed worthy of the noble title of the Omniscient One. Every ice mage has a different understanding towards the nature of ice. There is no such thing as superior or inferior understanding, nor is there a right or wrong way of understanding. Your little disciple is skilled in ice creation. I think she probably understands ice as the moment of silence. The reason why she is able to train both ice and fire simultaneously is because she views fire as the moment of movement, thus complementing each other to form an entire world. Warriors strengthen their physical body to change the world, while mages use their will and imagination to affect the world. Don't use the dumb methods of warriors to understand magic, otherwise, you will be stuck at the level of an apprentice for your entire life. Looking at the serious face of this 10 centimeters tall doll, for the first time, I feel that she is indeed a teacher. I silently nod my head. Ice magic, huh? Closing my eyes, I fall into thought. In my hometown, during winter, the tall and steep snow mountains and the ice rivers. In the cruel elimination game of nature, all life struggles to vie for the right to survive, and nature uses its own methods to choose the strong ones who have the privilege to live on. Thank you, teacher. I roughly understand. Chapter 78, the Treader warriors strengthen their physical body to change the world, while mages use their will and imagination to affect the world. Don't use the dumb methods of warriors to understand magic, otherwise, you will be stuck at the level of an apprentice for your entire life, or as a magic sword carrying dumbass warrior. Harlois wasn't wrong. I went down the wrong path in the past. It was only because I was troubled by the Holy Knight career's lack of large AO and long range attacks, and thus, without any thoughts about my actual circumstances, I blindly chose to study ice magic. Demand determines the supply. Back then, I also didn't really find the need to dig up the potential of ice magic. Alright, just like Harlois said, even if my talent for magic is just subpar and my sense for the elements is so insensitive to the point of imbecilic, but by using the system to forcefully pull me up, I still rose through the ranks. However, without having a bottleneck to be stuck at, I lost the period of accumulation when one is stuck in a bottleneck, as well as the experience and understanding that one will gain when breaking through via one's own understanding. This is just like a science and technology faculty nerd using his own rational thinking to analyze a literary work. Perhaps, he is able to analyze why the work is attractive to others as well as its good points, and that everything he says may be logical. However, if you were to ask him to write his own literature piece, only the backbones of the essay will appear. That is because he lacks the emotions and dedication for the work. He is unable to pull in the bits and pieces of the good parts to create a truly good story. In the end, it can only serve as a simple and concise news report script. Based on Harlois's description, learning magic is quite similar to creating art. They both involve using one's will to picture one's little world and affect reality through it. Then, it is necessary for there to be one's understanding and one's personal views to be inside it. It may seem that this thought process has nothing to do with one's power level, but it is of utmost importance. They determine a mage's own road. On the other hand, losing these sentimental understandings, one's path will just become more and more narrow. I am the most obvious example. I treated the literature works that require sentimentality, elemental magic, as math, martial arts that require routine training and accumulation, to learn, and in the end, I can only follow the main content and copy the footsteps of the predecessors, learning standard magic and turning my own ice magic into an ice bomb tower. Charge mana and blast it. This became my utmost understanding of ice magic. As a mage who managed to create a forbidden spell, this is too big of a waste. However, what is fortunate is that hard work is never wasted, even if one is working in the wrong direction. Even if I didn't do research on magic with sentimentality, but my time and effort spent on studying it rationally aren't wasted. The fate points that I spent brought me rewards. Although I didn't realize it rationally, the sentimental part somewhere deep in my soul had gained a certain level of understanding. It may sound confusing, so let's just put it as although the mouth says no, the body is honest. The crystallization of understanding and one's experience, the once-in-a-lifetime soul imprint. Soul imprint, mark of justice, destroyed, the crown of undead, destroyed, the ice treader, destroyed, son of light, destroyed. On the system board, the 4 destroyed soul imprints are arranged in a row. Increase effectiveness of spells by 1%. Increase the effect of necromancy by 1%. These soul imprints offer this kind of insignificant additional buffs that can only be used to reminisce on their existence. Of course, unless I were to have suicidal thoughts and burn my soul once again, they would probably stay like this forever. In my second life, the Ice Treader is my soul imprint, but apparently, I seem to not have lived up to its true meaning. Treader, it refers to a person who treads, a person who measures the world through their steps. Through the perspective of an adventurer, they gaze at the scenery, feel and understand nature and experience life. The Ice Treader. Actually, it's just an adventurer of snow mountains, obsessed with the culture of the northern countries. The vast snowlands without boundaries. The horizon seems as though an unreachable destination. The beauty of life when it is fast asleep. The roar of the heavens during an avalanche. The world under the ice river that can't be frozen. The white wolf pack who howls towards the sky. The giant monsters and hidden snow leopards in the snow mountain. The seedlings that appear from beneath the snow. Life and nature vying and coexisting in harmony. Even gods have to be humble in the face of the true power of nature. The replacement of life is a rule of nature that hasn't changed for millenniums. In order to survive the cruel winter period, everyone has to work and cooperate together. The winter wolves who gather in packs to hunt understand. The true countryman of the North also understands. When Harlois mentions her own understanding of the nature of her ice magic, my memories of the culture of the northern countries seems to repeat itself in my mind again and again as though a zoetrope. So, the truth is that no matter whether it is back then or now, I have always missed home. Deep in the night, thunder starts to roar outside. I solemnly place my hand out of the window. What fell on the center of my palm aren't the snowflakes that I was so familiar with, but rather, the summer rain that brings a trace of warmth in it. What can an adventurer who lost his way and misses his home do? Of course, it is to return home. But, it is a pity that even though the memory of the snow still remains, the flag that stands proudly on top of the land isn't the same one as it once was. The country of snow, which seemed to have not changed at all, is no longer the country I belong to. I don't feel like going home, at least not now. Then, since I have no home to return to, I shall temporarily have the most beautiful scenery of my homeland turn into the scene of my dreams. Perhaps, one day, there will be a chance that my world of dreams can transform into reality. The infallible definer one's soul is always much more honest than one's mouth. In the 3 soul imprints that form the soul world, the ice shredder forms the winter scenery of my homeland. Displaying its true powers, it turns into an unresting adventurer of the snow, depicting the natural frost and the beauty of ice in my homeland. Hey, I really am a failed master. To think I would be ignorant of my soul imprint's true powers. Is it because of its great powers that my senses are blinded? But it isn't too late for me to understand now. So, let it snow. In the short moment after this silent voice, the rainwater outside the window turns into snow. It's a midnight snow that is limited to only this house. The neighbors might not even realize it, but it created quite a stir among the temporary residents living within. I seem to finally understand the path of my ice magic. It isn't the path of a cannon station that I thought I was adept in. Rather, it is using mana as a pin to turn the most beautiful and dangerous ice plains in my memories into reality. Hey, you seem to get it now, huh? Harlois jumps happily onto the window ledge and turns back into the form of a small cat before disappearing into the snow. As for me, I close the window. My understanding is still in its primary stage. The night is still too early for me to be able to convert it into an actual fighting power. At this moment, in the depth of my soul, that the ice shredder destroyed, increase effectiveness of ice magic by 1%'s insignia of an adventurer in the winter night is suddenly undergoing a change. At this moment, it is the ice shredder damaged. Increase effectiveness of ice magic by 3%. Looks like I am really over-reliant on the system. My soul is still here and a physical body that nurtures the soul is also present. Naturally, the soul imprints which are crystallizations of the soul can be recovered. Hee, let's take it slowly. A legend with 4 soul imprints. It really makes one look forward to it. Very quickly. Following the recovery of my soul imprint, my abilities in ice magic soared. It didn't take long before I was able to grasp the ultimate forbidden spell, Icean, once again. Then, using the forbidden spell as a threat, I forced the All-In capital to acknowledge the East Mist communal country's independence. Alright. It is impossible for everything above to happen. Life isn't to dream. It is impossible to move 1,000 miles in a day just because of a single epiphany. That is a story written in novels. In reality, one must slowly take one step after another. Even if I have understood the nature of my ice magic and that I have a plan for the future, but the problems I had before still persist. That is, as expected, my talent in elemental magic is crap. The same book of magic and the same person. Even if he were to comprehend some logic, but it will still be the same loggerhead, so it is still hard to comprehend it. Thus, after reading it for half a night, I can only shut it helplessly. Turning to the screen, I activated an old solution, cheating through the system. 20 skill points. I am really reluctant. Skill points are good things. They can allow me to learn a technique or magic directly. Also, it can also allow magic to be upped by one circle. For example, one skill point can turn a one circle ice arrow into a two circle ice vector, increasing the attack power and other factors significantly. I, who have only reached the second rank, bronze rank, the highest tier magic I can control now is 3 circle. The relationship between magic circles and rank is, first rank, greater than 1 circle, second rank, greater than 2 circle, 3 circle, third rank, greater than 4 circle, 5 circle, and etc. If I were to throw a dozen skill points into it at one go. Alright, that would be a great waste. Let's not mention the fact that to upgrade higher circle magic would require more skill points. The higher the circle, the greater the chance of failure when casting the spell. It is actually quite easy to die from your mana rebound. However, throwing too many points on one circle magic without much potential is an extreme waste of resources. My fate points aren't sufficient to pull me to the next rank. Currently, I am still a LV21 Order Knight, Chaos Witch King. By right, going by the usual 2-level, 1 skill point calculation, I should only have 10 points. However, while it expends 4 times the effort to raise my level, this double job gives me twice the amount of skill points as a reward. Previously, I didn't use it at all. This is due to the fact that as an Order Knight, I have the confidence to learn and use any ability and skill of the Holy Light and Law without using any skill points. As for Necromancy, this isn't the time for me to use it now. Thus, I saved all of my skill points so as to forcefully break through my bottleneck when I am at a higher rank. But right now, I probably would require fighting power soon. I can already vaguely see my future path. Since my chaos and order powers have to develop equally, then my weak points would require me to devote a greater amount of time and effort to pull them to equal standards. Given my horrible talent in elemental magic, there's probably no way I can save my skill points. If there must be a difference to be said between using skill points and through one's own effort, then it would be that through understanding the concepts, one would be more clear on one's future path, allowing them to consciously choose the direction where they want to develop towards rather than choosing randomly as one pleases. Looking at the ton of ice magic on the skill tree, a large portion of them are powerful cannon-style magic. But, they're not what I require now. Very quickly, I found the one I was looking for. I can already use the 1 circle ice magic, Cold Armor. Now, with 2 other magic spells, I should be able to achieve my objective. 1 circle Cold Armor, Iron, form a thin ice armor around the spellcaster's body, slightly increasing one's defense. If the spellcaster were to be successfully hit by an enemy, the enemy's speed will be reduced by 0.1 seconds by the chill. 2 circle Ice Breath, Bronze, sustains a conical ice breath that deals 1 to 3 frost damage and creates a chill effect, reducing the target's speed. The maximum range is 2 meters and the maximum duration is 6 seconds. 3 circle Ring of Ice, Bronze, create a ring of ice around the spellcaster which explodes outwards. The ring will only fly for a maximum of 15 meters and all those touched by the ring will be slowed by a chill effect. The attack power of these 3 magic spells is almost 0. However, they're the rarer type of ice magic that reduces speed. If my guesses are accurate, they probably belong to the same class and form the stepping stone to higher grounds. First, the Cold Armor which covers my body. The Ice Armor, which is almost invisible to the eye, probably can't really defend me from attacks. However, it surrounds me in the ice element and it's one of the few magic spells which directly creates cold air that reduces speed. It is the same cold air that results in the effect of reducing the speed of the attacker as well. At this time, under the drive of my mana, a surge of cold air is created from the Cold Armor. Next, the Ice Breath. The breath of ice turns into an icy fog and the cold air is refined and evolves. A layer of thin ice creeps on everything that the cold air touches. Last but not least, the Ring of Ice. Upon the end of my incantation, the accumulating cold air bursts out. This room is immediately wrecked. Regardless of whether it is the furniture or the ceiling, a layer of ice forms on everything in the room. A magic chain creates a powerful effect of 1 + 1 + 1 3, but I still knit my brows in displeasure. If I only wanted such an effect, then it would have sufficed to simply invest points in a higher tier magic. I didn't throw into entire skill points just for this. Is this still insufficient? I guess it is insufficient. Then, only this magic remains. I open the skill tree once again and find that large AO freezing magic. 6 circle snowstorm, gold rank, create a small scale storm and using the fallen snow, create a large AO frost damage and slow effect. 6 circle magic. Even if I were to invest points here, I wouldn't be able to use it for quite a long time. 3 skill points, don't let me waste them without reaping any rewards. At the moment when I cast Snowstorm, the cold armor suddenly dissipates and all of the cold air in the room seems to return back to me. Then, when it is released once again, it has already been refined into an even higher quality, deadly cold air. Ding! Congratulations! You have learned the combination skill Frozen Air. This skill is an emulation of the extreme cold of the natural world. No life is immune to its effect, kid. You made a good choice this time. You seem to have finally figured out how to use me. Make good use of your resources, treasure your skill points. Frozen Air, a kind of deadly cold air that is without sound or presence. It can be enchanted onto one's physical body and weapon, as well as paired together with ice magic as an attack. Those who are touched by the frozen air will have all movements slowed by 1% and suffer 1 point of frost damage per second. This debuff can be stacked. If the target's movement speed is reduced by more than 20%, a frozen effect will be inflicted. Many negative statuses will be inflicted, such as the freezing of one's thought. If the target's movement speed is reduced by more than 50%, then there is a chance that the target might die at any moment due to massive loss of heat. Usage requirement: Soul Imprint of the Ice Shredder. If the user were to reach Gold Rank and gain the ability to control the magic Snowstorm, Frozen Air will be automatically evolved to the next stage. As expected, my guess wasn't off. Under the effects of my Soul Imprint, the accumulation of my experiences allowed quantity to create a change in quality. Just by thinking about it, one will know how treacherous and deadly this soundless and presence-less frozen air is. It is able to be stacked as long as we are crossing blows, and by the time they realize that the frost is plaguing them, it will already be too late. Just like the pests in the farm who die due to a steep and sudden fall in temperature, they can only watch helplessly as strength leaves them. Furthermore, this is only the beginning. This kind of frozen air that emulates the harshness of the natural world will become my stepping stone to higher heights. In the end, I would be able to create the absolute winter that belongs solely to me. As expected, only by undergoing the frigid winter can one feel the warmth of spring again. Only after abandoning my incomplete physical body and start anew can I progress to greater heights. Perhaps, under the accumulation of experiences in my 4 soul imprints through 4 lives, this time, I would be able to step onto the pinnacle of this world. Chapter 79, The Flower of Law. Those who are passing by, don't pass on this opportunity. You won't lose anything in 2 minutes. You won't get cheated in just 2 minutes. As long as you give us 2 minutes, we guarantee you an entirely new choice in life. This brother over here, the holy light is watching over you. Everything is possible. The smiling sisters sincerely welcome your arrival. The Mother Earth is coaxing, protecting, you. TL This is another homophone. Who you, greater than coaxing, and, who you, greater than protecting / watching over. Whatever you want, we will sell it cheap. Whatever you buy, we will give you a discount. Don't miss out on this once in a lifetime opportunity. We are clearing out all our stocks, making a loss just to sell these. You can try it before buying it. We guarantee its quality. We will pay you tenfold if there is an imitation inside. Vanna's golden reputation, definitely trustworthy. Dang dang dang, war gods are good. War gods are fantastic. It is said that as long as you believe in the war god in our family, then those who are sick will be cured, those who are healthy will become stronger. Regardless of whether you are having a cold, fever or tuberculosis, as long as you believe in the war god, we guarantee that you will make a full recovery. 10 years ago at the neighboring village, Old Han suddenly became severely ill at 93 years old. After joining our war god church, not only did he come back from his grave, but he is now so spirited and physically strong that just 2 days ago, He left a dozen little rascals lying on the floor, moaning in pain. If you think that this is the calling of the merchants of some big market, then you are sorely mistaken. This is the big field in front of the Lane's City Lord residence. It is also the part of the city that's crowded with the greatest amount of people, as well as its most bustling location. As for those who are prancing about, striking their gongs and playing with their drums, they are the respected priests of true gods. Hey, this big brother here, are you interested in the Goddess of Wealth Church? If you join now, we will even give you 2 complimentary shampoos. Pooh, shampoo. The smiling sisters over there are giving out cooking oil. You are really lacking in sincerity. Wait, let me consult the Archbishop. We should still have stocks of cooking oil remaining. I'm sorry, seems like we ran out of cooking oil. Will toilet paper and shampoo do? Right, I also have a 2-month voucher to eat freely at Saint Restaurant. Deal. But can you wait for a moment? I just joined the War God Church. I have to stay for 3 months before they allow me to leave the church. Fine, but you must join before the end of the year. You can leave right after the start of the year. And you must finish the year-end mission. DSK, you want me to complete the year-end mission despite offering so little? I think I will join the Goddess of Wealth Church, after all. Alright, now that he feels that he has been shortchanged, that fellow turns around and leaves. However, looking at the dozen bags of little gifts he is carrying in both hands, exactly how many times has he joined and left these several organizations? Normally, these respected old gentlemen would be waiting in their churches for others to knock on their doors, to impart the teachings and cultivate faith in their true God. Instead, they are now acting like the merchants that they previously looked down on, trying to rope in passers-by on the field, and giving out complimentary gifts all around to advertise. The reason? Simple, a powerful opponent has arrived in this city. Rapidly, she has already built up unbelievable prestige. A large bunch of worshippers from other churches is switching their faith. The year-end mission that they were just about to finish, immediately became an impossible mission. Wild Elf Judge Minter Crows. Upon speaking this name, the respected priests around this area would grind their teeth in anger. She has totally ignored the underlying rules that everyone had traditionally agreed upon. Without any advertisement pamphlets or complimentary gifts, and just by standing on the field and showing a faint smile, countless young men would take the initiative to approach and ask for more information. In fact, just to bring a smile on the face of this beauty, some even directly switched their faith. Thus, in just half a month, a number of believers in the God of Law shot up at a rapid pace. In this world, where true gods exist, worshippers are the origin of power for true gods, the very basic building blocks of the churches of true gods. Recruiting worshippers is the year-end mission that all priests must complete. Without any increases in the total population of the city, given that the Church of Law is rapidly growing stronger, it is a natural outcome that other churches are suffering losses. Facing dwindling numbers of worshippers, the other churches are panicking. And now, there are already pitiful young priestesses dressed scantily, giving out advertisement flyers and gifts to passers-by while repenting. However, the situation is immediately reversed the moment Crows smiles slightly. Now that the circumstances have developed to such a point, even the well-respected retired old priests are walking the streets, carrying a bunch of paper bags containing gifts and starting their life as a salesperson. Of course, using just beauty isn't enough. The crux is that the teachings that the God of Law advocates is very attractive. First, there is no need to pray in the God's name, so there is no need for a regional church. Thus, it doesn't need anyone to serve the God, nor are donations required. Due to reincarnation and the existence of true gods, it is true that those who die without any faith would fall into the river Styx. This is also the slogan used by the Order gods to spread their faith. Thus, as citizens of the Order faction, humans will tend to choose a true god of order to worship. However, churches also have to eat, and donating a tenth of one's fortunes to the church is already an unspoken rule agreed by most churches. But now, there is someone who isn't playing by the rules. He directly shouts that there won't be a church and donations won't be enforced on the believers. In the end, it created a snowball effect. The first to change their faith is the merchants. This is just like two countries trying to get a merchant to build their factory in their territory. One of them has a tax rate of 10% while the other isn't collecting any taxes, under the prerequisite that the other conditions aren't that different. as long as their heads are still functioning properly, they would choose the latter. Of course, the other churches are hesitating on whether they should lower the donation amount expected of their worshippers. However, this isn't something a district church can decide upon. Also, if they decide to play the price war, the other party doesn't even have a church, a true zero-cost organization. How can they compete with that? Also, the God of Law Wumians is a true god in the Order faction, both in name and status. The female judgmenter over there can even provide a job change for the basic jobs. Right, basic jobs, such as mages, priests, and holy knights, those kinds of basic jobs. With the help of the God Equipment Scattered page, within half a month, there are almost 100 Justice Knights and more than 10 Judgmenters. Judgmenters require quite a high intelligence as a prerequisite for the job conversion. In this city, after Wumians ascended as the true god, Justice Knights and Judgmenters, which should have been a job advancement class, became a basic job. This doesn't mean that the Law faction is getting weak, but rather, it means that the entire Law faction is becoming significantly stronger as a whole. One has to first convert to a Holy Knight or Warrior job before they can convert to a Justice Knight after reaching the gold rank. This has determined that the number of Justice Knights would be severely limited. Also, how can talent groomed by other people be as trustworthy as the people that we groomed from scratch? In the past, the number of true gods who could provide basic jobs wasn't many. The most famous of them all were the Holy Knights and Priests of Holy Light, from the Church of Holy Light. Now that Justice Knights and Judgmenters have become a basic job as well, this means that the potential of the Law faction is boundless. Thus, in just 2 weeks, the God of Law has become the hottest topic of this entire city. Crows has also become a famous figure known by everyone. Of course, there are flaws under this layer of perfection. For example, this beautiful priestess, Judgmenter, is an equivalent to priests. After spreading the teachings, we'll tend to ask, are there any unique treasures that can turn one into a male? And her forced smile after receiving a negative reply makes one's heart break. People have started to suspect if the true God of Law Wumians is especially fond of cute boys, thus forcing this beautiful priestess to search all around for the means. The God of Law Wumians loves cute boys the most. This kind of rumor actually started spreading about. Little boys, your head, I'm a heterosexual. Truth be told, after hearing these rumors, I furiously crushed the teacup in my hands. Even if I am used to falling into misfortune, even while doing nothing due to the pathetic luck of mine, but if I were to become the guardian god of cute boys and gays, I might as well commit suicide. The primary reason for crows to head to the surface is to look for these means is to dispel the curse or to find treasures that can change her sex once again. It is just that if one thinks that she set forth just for such a casual reason, one would be underestimating her sense of responsibility as an enforcer. She applied for the mission to spread the faith before leaving the underground world. After her application, it is said that just within an afternoon, Xuiti received hundreds of applications to further the faith as well. Of course, if so many people were to leave all of a sudden, there would definitely be drastic negative impacts on the Supreme Court. Xuiti didn't approve them. However, hidden behind the seemingly loyal and honest face is a black-hearted cow. He didn't have any good intentions. He declared that there were only 2 slots and requested for them to decide among themselves. Alright. Those incurable old bachelors fought even after the sky turned dark. It is said that out of the 300 who joined the private group fight, there are less than 10 who could still attend work on the second day. It was that intense. The final victors were a gold pinnacle law incantationer and a gold pinnacle justice knight, and naturally, they became Crow's flower guardians, companions for the journey. I found it incomprehensible. As a legend rank judgmenter, would crows still need the protection of you two? Yes. Wild Elf Crows converted from a great druid into a top-tier judgmenter. Although her personality is still too soft, at 700 years old, her fighting prowess was never low. As one who values responsibility, despite being plagued with her private issues, she prioritized her job of spreading the teachings and placed the search for treasures to dispel her curse as her secondary objective. I am really thankful to her loyalty towards her duties. But, can you stop asking if the other party has some unique item to turn one into a male after spreading the teachings? It makes it seem as though looking for an item to change sex is the more important issue at hand. You are actually smiling on the inside, huh, ex-Lord Wumians? Alright, this stupid cat has actually seen through it. Even though I keep complaining, I am actually quite happy. After all, the God power regulation system that I sacrificed so much to exchange for didn't go to waste. The law faith is also being propagated at a rapid speed. Of course, not setting up churches, allowing those who believe in law to wield the power of law, while allowing the law faith to be disseminated quickly. All of this has caused the Luoyang Mountain City Supreme Court, which serves as the Church of Law, to lose its control over the basic wielders of power of law. But, this is within my expectations. The fact that the God of Law is fated to develop with its worshippers spread all over, divided, made the other churches heave a sigh of relief. After all, in their traditional view, churches are the basis to maintaining belief. It is sufficient as long as the law faith can be disseminated. Church or whatsoever, it isn't important from the start. When too many people start to gather, it would be too chaotic. Too many voices will cause the initial teachings to change instead. In order to carry out the rules of law with absolute fairness, I am willing to follow in the footsteps of the God of Holy Light to give up my sense of self to become the rules of law itself. From now onwards, I am the law and the law is me. One doesn't need to recite my name to obtain the power of law. One only needs to believe in enforcing the rules of law. These are my vows I spoke during my ascension. I said so in my vows during my ascension. The law is Wumian's and Wumian's will turn itself into law as well. This is equal to giving up one's sense of self. A true God without a sense of self cannot send down God commandments. If so, the church which serves the true God isn't important anymore. Even so, as long as law were to be vastly spread throughout this world, Wumian's, as God power regulation system, will eventually become as powerful as the God of Light. Then, I would be able to start on my next objective. Hey, just continue showing off then. But, there aren't many judgmenters that are as good as crows, so the progress in other regions probably won't be as fast. Thus, I should make good use of my resources. I will bring her along to All End Empire. Could it be that you can make Wumian send out his God commandments? Of course not. However, I have a message left behind by Wumians before he ascended. I can guarantee that it is written by Wumians himself. Besides, with crows following me, at least there is a chance through my monthly Gakuban. In any case, it is much better than searching around without any leads. At the very least, I don't have to worry about even more people believing that Wumians really likes males. Chapter 80, All End Empire. The Whisper of the Demons is the prelude to the 7 trials of Ike, as well as the start of everything. Along with the awakening of the will of chaos, the cults that worship the malevolent gods of chaos, as well as the servants of demons, will start to cause chaos and unease across the entire continent. Then, when all of the ancient elemental gods would be released, the elemental tide will arrive. As a result, the entire world will change. Other than an exponential increase in the amount of elemental life forms and magical beasts and the experts of every race and tribe coming out from their seclusion, it also increases the possibility of the undead emperors returning to the main continent from the undead dimensions. Even more so, the arrival of the elemental tide builds the foundation for the invasion of the mnemonic army against the main dimension in the future. At the same time, the idealists and the ambitious will start to make their moves. Among the group, those who bring about the greatest threat are those who desire to build their own country, the evil cultists who welcome the descent of the malevolent gods, as well as the ambitious underground city lords who wish to return back to the surface. The prelude to this all has started not too long ago. Other than the unlucky fellow in the underground world who was weakened to the brink of death and devoured the moment he was released, the other elemental gods will be released, bringing a great amount of elemental life forms to this world. Of course, if it wasn't for the epic mission that was brought by the plot of the prelude, I wouldn't be able to revive so perfectly. 10 years later, when the next trial, the Vulture of Air, starts, under the movement of schemers and the ambitious, the entire continent would be plunged into chaos. Then, the question would be what exactly happened in this 10 years. Firstly, it would be the appearance of young talents in each country. The emergence of new equipment and new armies caused a frenzied increase in the military power of the countries, causing the nobles of large countries to be tempted by greed. At the same time, some organizations and individuals were fanning the flames of war by the side, such as the nephew of an emperor being murdered by assassins bearing the name of some smaller countries, thus providing the spark for the large countries who were already craving for war. Initially, the war only involved the annexation of smaller states by larger countries. But, as victories started to pile up, these countries started to fervently desire war. When endless greed and profits from war blinded the eyes of the emperor and nobles, when the newly titled Knight Lords need to be given their own land, when the strength of these countries was growing stronger by the day, the vulture of war was already circling the skies of the entire human world. In the end, it is just the maxim that extreme prosperity will ultimately lead to destruction being proven true once again. When the surface society occupied mainly by the humans developed to a certain point, the larger nations would crave to climb even higher. Perhaps, they wished to become the legendary emperor whose name will be marked in history as the man who unified the entire human society. Or maybe they craved to become the dominant leader of an area. Even without schemers inciting them, the outbreak of war would have eventually happened. To those who are standing at the pinnacle of the world, it is also about time for them to reap the fruits of their harvest as well. Thus, the sacred war follows closely by the end of the war and the horns of war are blown once again. The Great World War. When the large nations bring their subordinate states to initiate a full-blown war against others, there are even people who prophesied happily that after the war, a new empire will sweep the entire continent, bringing the human society to greater heights. But then, cruel reality slapped these large countries in their face, telling them that this world isn't a one-player game among humans but a web game park among different races. The elf kingdoms will lead different tribes and rise up against the humans. Ignoring the common assaults of beastmen tribes and such, the invasion of the Underground Alliance caused the human countries who are 100 times greater in terms of quantity to witness the sight of Goldrake serving as cannon fodder, giant dragons launching assaults one after another, legends filling the entire battlefield and semi-gods roaming all about. The human army who outnumber their enemies by 100 times didn't even have the time to mock their large disparity in quantity of military forces when they experienced what suppression through individual abilities mean. What it means for an individual to be able to defeat 100, for 10 to ward off an army of 10,000, what it means for the command team to be wiped even before the start of war, what it means for an order of knights to charge through the city walls. Even a division chief might not be as powerful as a veteran soldier of the opposing force. This war was really hopeless for them. If it wasn't for the Underground Alliance army falling into internal conflicts over the spoils of war, if it wasn't for the large countries sacrificing the interests of smaller countries without hesitation to exchange land for time through bringing temporary satisfaction to the Underground Alliance to make them fall into internal conflict and postponing the final battle as a result, the war would probably be long over. Then, the undead calamity struck. Those ancient and perennial undead semi-gods who were banished to foreign dimensions stepped onto the stage, making the humans even more aware of the pain of lacking top-tier powers and the ridiculousness of comparing quantity of cannon fighters against the army of the undead calamity. As for the invasion of demons and the last few trials, in reality, it is just adding a few additional knives into the tattered continent. It was already at the brink of death and would have died even if it was just left there. Along with endless deaths, the war continued to intensify. By the time the Goddess of Order and Goddess of Chaos personally fought on the front line, everything came to an end. Truthfully, every time I see this part of history, a feeling of helplessness arises from the depths of my heart, depleting all of my motivation. In the face of the overwhelming circumstances of history, my strength as an individual is negligible. Prevent the outbreak of war? I am not that naive. However, those that I can do, I have done. For example, under the will of the citizens of the underground world, the invasion of the surface cannot be avoided. However, with Luang Mountain City leading the pack, at least we would have a larger say in decision making and will not be on the passive end. As long as we settle it properly, there is still a possibility of cooperating together with the surface against the trials. Also, the variable that I personally created, the Ziluo Empire, has served a bizarre purpose. The undead catastrophe from the several undead dimensions has been brought forward. Initially, it should begin only after 70 years and not at a maximum of 30 years from now that Dekars informed me. For this, I should be thankful for the efforts of the head of the Council of Dark Knight, The second Senator Phelan. It is a bad thing though? No, it is actually good news. As the elemental tide engulfs the world, it becomes easier and easier to connect dimensions together. It is impossible for the undead emperors who have been eyeing the main continent for a long time to not to come. Rather, if they were to arrive earlier, it would cause the internal conflict on Ike to end early, allowing the warring forces to band together against the powerful external forces. Besides, to forcefully enter the main dimension during the beginning phase of the elemental tide, the powers of the undead emperors and their forces would take a hit. At the very least, the 3 undead emperors who have reached the level of true gods would definitely be unable to enter. If so, the scale of the undead calamity would be much smaller than that depicted in history, thus bringing the possibility of dealing with them batch after batch. So, I ordered the royal faction to make peace with Phelan and focus all of their efforts to make the invasion from the foreign dimensions occur as early as possible. It would be best if it occurs before the invasion of the underground world begins. That way, using cooperating against the undead as an excuse, it wouldn't be difficult for us to get the humans to give up a plot of land or to steal it from the hands of the undead calamity. Perhaps, after the war, both parties can achieve coexistence and accrue sufficient military power to deal with the troubles that would occur afterward. Of course, this is assuming the best case scenario of the invasion of the undead calamity being brought forward. The worst case scenario is that we might not be able to even survive the undead calamity, causing an early loss in the game. On the other hand, if the Underground Alliance goes out of control or if an agreement with the humans fails to go through, then facing the undead calamity and Underground Alliance simultaneously, we would also be crushed. Sigh, there are too many catastrophes in the future. Since there isn't much hope from the start, then I might as well try to make a last stand. All-End Empire. With a history of 700 years, it can be considered the youngest of all superpower countries. However, they aren't the weakest of the bunch. On the other hand, after a few generations of wise kings who made good decisions, the country became wealthy and powerful, and there are vague signs that they may surpass the existing superpowers. The capital, Kajursi City, is one of the greatest city in the entire continent and is built along a river. It is split into 8 main districts and its population numbers almost 10 million. Of the 8 districts, the Pearl District has a population of 3 million and is known as the Nocturnal City. If we had to describe All-End Empire, then extravagant would probably be the most suitable adjective. Also, the countless oil lamps along the river, the magic-powered searchlights, the luxurious carriages on the streets, the cruises and cargo ships on the river, the refined ladies dressed in elegant clothes strolling by the river, and merchant parties who came from all around the world. All of these brings an astonishing amount of liveliness to this city. Now that the inauguration ceremony of the new emperor is by the corner, colorful flags and jewels are hung on the trees by the river, an especially expensive silk carpet is laid on the main street, and even the gold-plated oil lamps along the road were powered by the expensive mermaid oil. While causing the visiting tourists to criticize the loaded host, they couldn't help to envy All-End Capital's wealthiness and strength. The reason why this inauguration ceremony is made so grand isn't just for their reputation. Previously, having 26 subordinate states have already made it a big country. Now, if the number were to increase to 42 subordinate states, the All-End Capital would be able to shake off its reputation as a political upstart and become an influential superpower in the entire world. Of course, there are some people who don't wish for it to happen. Black blood runs through his veins as he prepares to bring chaos and destruction. However, he is currently in a dilemma. After all, to meet someone from the same hometown in a foreign country is a rare joy in life. However, he really wants to pretend to be unacquainted with these old friends. As expected of Pearl City, it really is extravagant. To think they even give free pearls to passers-by. Stop talking so much nonsense and quickly take them. Alright, they are Goblin Yinku and Kabbalah, familiar faces from Luhuang Mountain City. They have set their sights on the jewels that are used to decorate the trees. Despite being surrounded by onlookers who were pointing at them, criticizing them, but they continued filling their shabby sack happily. Oh, high-quality mermaid oil. Such a waste. It would serve a much better purpose as an additive in my combustion material for me. Hoyle, he recognizes the people in front of him, but he would rather not know them. Indeed, They have set forth for all in capital and hope for a great windfall through their gifts. Looking at the date, they should have long arrived. However, to be able to meet in such a big city without any prior appointments, in a way, it could be considered as a cursed fate. You thieving bastards! It is you lot again. You are robbing in daytime now? What, thief? What are you talking about? Aren't these put by the road for people to take? Yeah, just because you said that it is yours doesn't mean it is yours. If you were to call out to it now, will it reply you? Alright, even as the gnome Kabbalah shouts back confidently, his movements hadn't slowed in the least. Very quickly, he fills his sack to the brink and flees with it. Cough cough, don't escape. You bunch of bastards. These shameless experts from the underground world had honed their agility through frequent clashes with the Luhuang Mountain City town security, so it was impossible for those normal human security personnel to catch up with them. They panted heavily as they ran, but the gap only widens. Come and chase us. Ha, days without the town security is really lonely, like a winter night. Ha, I, Kabbalah, am unmatched now. Ouch. Alright, Kabbalah, who was a famous expert at digging, slips and falls onto the muddy ground. Kabbalah, what happened? What happened? I told you that after digging a hole, you must fill it up. Is this retribution? Also, who was the one who threw that watermelon skin? Such lack of social conscience. Kabbalah still owes old Hoyle 100,000 gold coins. If you accidentally killed him, are you all sure you all can pay for it? TL, Hoyle is referring himself in a third-person view. Alright, the first part of the furious rant is still reasonable, but it gradually gets twisted towards the end. It isn't 100,00, it's a 100. It's only 100. Besides, you already obviously cheated in cards last night. I won't even return you that 100. Even when his forehead swelled up, Gnome Kabbalah struggles with all his might to use his index finger to point a 1. He was afraid that this old dwarf who doesn't have the slightest sense of shame would make use of this opportunity to push this gigantic debt onto him. Indeed, if Kabbalah really had 100,000 gold coins, he wouldn't have to go to the extent to dragging that shabby sack all around town to fill it with those decorations. TL, he pointed to 1 to show 100. 100. What Hoyle said was 10,000. Those are indeed jewels, but they were of low quality, so they aren't really worth much money. Only Yingu, Kabbalah and the other gnomes who view wealth as important as their life would do such a thing. Alright, I can't stand watching on it such a sight. Apparently, there is someone who found such a sight even more unbearable than me. You bastards. Causing trouble even in other cities. Town security's big silly lass. How can this be? Didn't you all head to the north of the continent? Damn it, there is also that mad dog. Who is a mad dog? Don't come up with random nicknames for other people. Momo has a nice name. Big silly lass? Alright, I understand. The two former town security members clenched their fists and blocked them from the front and the back, while the other few experts from the Hall of Judgment pressures them from the side. The three short fellows fall into despair. Don't hit my face. Not the face. You don't even want your face anymore. Do you think it is possible for me to not hit it? Now, even the onlookers were amused by this farce. Making use of this opportunity, I put on a silver mask and smiles as I approach the few security personnel who were watching the show. It is a pleasant night, gentlemen. Today's skyline is quite beautiful, isn't it? May I ask, where is the embassy hall for East Mist Communal Country?